Well, hey, all you cool cats and kittens. What's everybody doing on this Friday night? Just kidding. Can you imagine if I talk like that? Hold on, let me let the girls up. Hi,
Hey, all you
guys.
cool cats and kittens.
Can you imagine if that was my voice like all the time? Hey, all you cool cats and kittens. How's it going on this Friday? How's everybody doing? And then he took a corn rake and stuck it in her back. I can't.
Where's your picture? You're just a white bubble.
I don't know. I see my
I've got a
picture.
picture for her.
Everybody has a picture. I see my picture. I see your picture. I
Ah.
see everybody's picture.
Let me refresh, because all I got you is a white bubble.
Okay, bye. Hi, Lupe. Hi, Heather, whatever. Hi, Tony. Hi, Cement Shoes. Hey, Molson Man. Hey, Allie79. AJ. I must get everybody. I think I got everybody. Yeah, I think so. Hopefully I did. Can you see everybody's pictures now, Mo? You feel better?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. All right. Sometimes that happens to me too, but like only when I'm on my phone. It never happens to me like if I'm running the StreamYard.
Well, I've got 84 tabs open. It
Well,
might be why.
maybe that might be why. Hey, Dan Cave, how you doing? Well, today's the day we're going to hear the cross examinations. Everybody ready?
Yeah.
What have
I
I
actually had a
done
dream
here?
about it last night.
You did?
Yeah.
What,
But I
what'd
was
you
like in the
dream?
court, like watching. It was, I don't know.
Oh,
Nothing really happened in my dream. Just that I was there and I was watching.
all
Couldn't
right.
tell you anything else about it, but
That's it, huh?
that's it. That's all my brain could muster up in my
Could
sleep, I guess.
that's all the creativity you had for the day, huh?
Yep.
Well, I'm all tangled up here and I can't figure out what the hell I've done. I tried. Okay. This is ridiculous. I'm not going to be able to make it like this. I'm all. I'll fix it later, but I'm all tangled up and I don't like it. It feels unsafe.
How discombobulated.
I'm all discombobulated. I don't know what's going. Oh, I see what I've done to myself. Hold on.
Ooh, Amelia Sparks, what did you gather from rewatching it? Because I think that would be insightful as well.
Yes. Well, let's have a little like recap before we start. Although it's gonna.
Oh, you should do a poll before this,
What is it with you and these polls, Mo?
because this might change some opinions.
All right, all right, all right.
Do you
I
do
will
the
do a
polls
poll.
in StreamYard or in
No,
the
you
other?
do the poll in studio. I got
Oh,
it. Not
well,
even
then I can't
studio.
do
You
that.
got to go to the channel. It's cool. I got it.
Hey, Heather. Whatever.
Okay.
Where Dr. P let her opinions be known. I like that wording.
I'm not even going to put a question mark. I don't feel like punctuation today. I don't understand why I can never see the poll, though. That's weird. Okay. Can y'all see it now? Hello?
I see it.
Okay, thank you. The one person who demanded the poll
Well, I had to
couldn't
go.
even.
I had to flip over to YouTube to see it because I'm on my phone, so I have YouTube open and paused, and then I have StreamYard over here, so I had to flip over.
Yeah, but
Well,
Mo has
I was
87
yelling
tabs
and
open and
I was
one at the
yelling. I
damn
was on
poll.
mute. I was like, I see
I
it, and
have
I
to
was
vote
reading the
because my
results.
vote counts.
I'm going to go vote too. Hold on.
And then it disappeared.
The poll
I don't-
disappeared? Oh,
Yeah.
I see it. Got 11 votes, 64 innocent, 36 guilty.
okay. Now we're at 46-54. Come on, Alice. Alice wants to vote. Why is she like this? Why is she such a heathen, you guys?
She probably wants to just shut the stream off.
She probably does. She's probably like, it's enough internet for you, Mom. Hold on. I can't even vote in my own poll.
You have to do it on YouTube.
I
Do you
am
want me to go
on
under an alt
YouTube.
and vote
No,
for
it's
you?
okay. I can vote. I can do it if I go on my Genlo account, but I'll do it later. Oh, I'm sorry. Your foot's broken, AJ. That's no bueno.
If
Hang on,
anything,
stop, Mom.
Amelia says, if anything, it makes me feel it was even less likely, Todd. I don't know, just the way things went down from his perspective,
Oh,
from Tristan's perspective.
yeah, I'm seeing. Oh my, wow.
Yeah, I don't want to get crucified for saying it.
We're like in a polar vortex. We need the wood. You're not getting crucified. Calm down.
But I feel like even with like the testimonies from her friends and her, I don't know, I just feel like there's more that points to the son than Todd. If it has to come down to the two of them.
Right.
From what
Well,
I've gathered.
I agree.
And I still haven't ruled out it being somebody else completely. It could be I was thinking about this too the other day. It could be a complete stranger because they saw the truck leave in the morning.
Right.
So as far as we know, they might have thought, like, oh, these people are gone for the day or something.
That's what I said the other night. That's what I said. Mm-hmm.
We don't know if somebody was in the barn poking around or whatever. And then like maybe Amy grabbed the corn rake, because that happens more times than not when your own weapon gets used against you.
That's an excellent point, Shmita.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I tell you all the time how smart you are. I wish you believed me. It is a good point, though. I mean, I'm at the point now where this is how I feel. I'm going to hear Todd's cross-examination, right? And then I'm going to think about it for a while. And then I want to hear, I already know what the verdict is, but then I want to hear this hearing. And I want to see what was filed and what they're basing this appeal on, because I just don't want to think right now about potential suspects. You know what I'm saying? Or alternate suspects, only because I have like other tabs open in my brain. I'm at least I don't think I'm quite to 11 billion, but I do think at least 1100 are open, and I started Terry Hobbs's book, and
Is it good?
Mm-hmm.
50, 1100 is also not a number.
1100 is a number. It's just not the way you're supposed to say it.
It would be 501,100.
1100 is 1150. It's just backwards.
That makes zero sense.
Well, poll's 50-50 now.
I'm just where I'm at is I don't have enough information at this juncture from just the trial alone and what we've seen to even begin to consider alternative suspects. What I will say is I have yet to feel that the way the case has been presented, that the state has proved that Todd is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. That's where I am. And that's a big difference between
Mhm.
saying somebody is innocent and didn't commit the crime. But I'm just, because I don't know that. What I'm saying is, because I don't have the case file, I haven't seen everything, only just what they've presented. And for me, there's enough. If I were on the jury, there would be reasonable doubt for me.
Me too.
You know,
Mhm.
there's reasonable doubt. But as far
They
as saying,
haven't proven enough that it was him.
well, right, they have not
Like, I feel
proven.
like every spouse could have motive. Like, every relationship has struggles
Excuse me,
and
my spouse has zero motive. Have you met me?
yeah,
But yes, I
yeah.
know you've met me, which is why you're
That's why we're laughing.
I know. I've met me. That's why I'm laughing.
Like, I don't know. I feel like every relationship you could say has motive. So
Well, yeah.
them being married and her having an affair and stuff, that's not enough.
Well,
Not for me.
I don't see, this is where I don't care about that. I don't care. Motive is not something that a state is required to prove. Okay. So I never like put a whole lot of stock into what the state throws out as motive, because that's just their guess. Unless they had something like,
An email or
no,
text.
more like a recent purchase of a huge life insurance policy. Something to
Oh,
that, something like that. That would be, then I would consider motive, because it's motive requires the state to look into somebody else's brain. Listen, I don't even like for y'all to be looking inside my brain. You think I want the state up in there? No. And I change too. Like, I mean, everybody has thoughts. So motive is not a big deal for me. What is a big deal for me to be able to find somebody guilty is the evidence. And at this point, they haven't proven beyond a reasonable doubt that Todd Mullis and Todd Mullis alone had the means and opportunity to do this. Because as you pointed out, Shmita, Todd and Tristan did leave in the farm. And we don't know. It bothers me that those, at least from what we're watching now, I don't know where it is now, but in 2019, the fact that they didn't even test the nail clippings is
right.
troublesome to me. I wish that they would have.
And I'm assuming that they would still have those, right?
They're supposed to keep them, yeah. They are supposed to keep them. Yeah, because he has the right to an appeal, and that would mean the right to test evidence. Now, I will say this: I don't know every state's law. Obviously, I'm familiar with some states because I've watched cases and trials, and I've watched appeals, but some courts, it's harder than others to get things like testing done, like for this, because the argument would be, well, this was available at trial, and it's not our fault that his defense attorneys didn't take advantage of it. And that happens. Because like even right now, I'll give you a prime example, because everybody, Teresa tagged me in something today, which, thank you, by the way, Teresa. It was a very interesting interview. And the minute that woman spoke, I recognized her. She's the one at the very in the middle of Paradise Lost. She's the reporter, and she messes up. And
Oh.
yeah, and then she does the count back again and then
See, I don't
starts
know all those
again.
players, so it doesn't mean as much to me as it means to you.
Yeah, the minute she spoke, I was like, and then when she explained who she was, I was like, girl, I already know who you are. She did cover it from the beginning. So, what's happening right now with this DNA situation with the West Memphis Three? The truth is, okay, that at the very end of everything, after the Alford plea was signed, and there was a press conference. There was one where the West Memphis Three spoke, and then there was another one where Ellington spoke, who was the prosecutor at the time, and then there was that panel that we watched, okay? And really what happened was there was somewhat of a, for lack of a better term, a gentleman's agreement. But if you listen very carefully to what Ellington said in that gentleman's agreement, he said that he would run the sequence through CODIS to eliminate it being DNA from one of like the West Memphis Police Department or a crime scene tech or something like that. Not that he would just run it to do it. You know what I'm saying? Now, that was when Ellington was the prosecutor. Ellington is no longer the prosecutor. Okay. And let's say he was, though. Let's say he was still the prosecutor. They're not asking for the DNA to be run through CODIS. They're asking for a new type of DNA testing. And the truth of the matter is, there would have to, whether Ellington was the prosecutor today or Cressman, who is the prosecutor today, there has to be a court order. There is no gentleman's agreement when it comes to that. There are rules that you have to abide by, and there has to be a court order. Do I think it would have been easier for them? Do I think the state would have put up less of an argument had certain other things not taken place between then and now? Yeah, I do. And that's the truth. And I'll always think that. But the truth is, they do have to have a court order. So that's where we're at right now. Hopefully, and I read the filing, and I'm not going to lie, I wasn't impressed. I wasn't impressed with the reasoning. No, I think that there is a very good reason for the DNA to be tested. And I think there's a very good reason for them to be able to use the MVAC testing. That I agree with. But because somebody else suggested it is not a good enough reason. And I'm going to leave it at that. The filing is public record. I don't address that person or bring that person's name up in this channel. I make no secret about it. I'm not a fan, but I don't judge other people for being one. And it's just easier that way. If I don't bring it up, I just leave them out. But I don't think that was I don't think the way that it was written was good. And it wouldn't move me to grant a court order for the testing. As much as I want justice, it just wasn't just wasn't written well. There's about a million other reasons that they could have given and left that one out. And I don't know. I wasn't impressed. But anyway, that's not what y'all came here for. So let me do all the things that I need to do so I can share
One question first.
Well, go ahead.
Weren't Todd and Tristan supposed to have been gone all day at the other farm?
Was that like the plan, you mean?
Yeah, and it was too cold, so they couldn't do what they planned on doing?
Yes. That is correct.
I joined a couple of those Facebook groups. And I don't know. I try not to get in. I try not to comment too much or do anything. But a lot of them think that it was Jerry.
Well, that's why I asked, because if they were going to be on all day, she probably told Jerry they're going to be gone all day. Oh, well, she had her other kids. But apparently it's fine to leave them alone, so who knows? She could have said, sneak over here for a quickie.
Yeah.
Meet me in the red
But they
shed.
think that he was mad at her. He was mad at Amy for not keeping their affair under wraps and causing issues at home.
Well, I bet he was. His
So,
text messages didn't seem very lovey.
No, they are convinced that he is involved somehow. I don't know.
All right. I just wanted to ask that because I've been thinking about it.
Well, to be like devil's advocate, truth be told, his texts and emails weren't really one way or another. They were flat. They were a complete lack of emotion, in either love or anger.
Right.
And to continue to play devil's advocate, because I like to do this every once in a while. We don't, from what we know now, like at this point and what we've heard, it didn't cause a conflict. His wife didn't care. His wife said that Todd was crazy, and then Todd, on top of it, Todd called them back and apologized.
Well, that doesn't mean anything because I had a girl call me and tell me that she was sleeping with my ex.
Mm-hmm.
And I told her, so what? He sleeps with everybody. I acted like I didn't care, but when he got home, I reamed his ass.
But don't you think?
Which now he probably did sleep with her, but whatever.
Right, but don't you? I'm not. What I'm saying is, if there was a emotional reaction from either Jerry or Christy, they would have asked when they were interviewed. And that would have come out in the discovery, and it probably would have been asked at trial. I mean, for Pete's sake, they asked him about Pornhub.
Right. I wish his
And
wife
he got
would come on the
so
stand.
giddy over it.
He was like a little schoolboy. Let's be real.
Right.
Yeah.
He was like, oh my gosh, yes, the Pornhub, oh my gosh. I'm like, he would never cut it in these YouTube streets.
No. Mm-mm. No.
And this is why he has a flip phone.
Yeah, Jerry would have and Todd neither. Todd would never make it in these YouTube streets, not for 1 second. I think I don't know. I just don't know that the only person that doesn't actually have a verified alibi, really and truly, is Christy from that household.
Mm-hmm.
She's the only one. Oh, hello, Alice. Did you come to cause trouble? No. That wasn't an invitation. I wasn't inviting you to come cause trouble. Get back, Loretta.
All right, let's go.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
We're not playing around anymore.
I guess not. No. Mo has spoken. No. Mo has spoken. We're playing it.
I looked up and saw the time.
You got a hot date or something?
No, I
Okay.
don't. But I want to really get into this.
Okay, Mr. Mullis, do you want to come back up and retake the stand for cross-examination, please? You took an oath yesterday. Do you understand that you're still under oath?
Yes, I do.
Okay, very good. Cross-examination.
Excuse me.
Todd, you bought your farm in 1999, correct?
My first farm, yes.
And that was before you met Amy.
Yes, it was.
And when you say your first farm, how many farms do you currently have?
Oh, I own 3 and I own part of another one.
And then your dad is a farmer.
Yes, he is.
And your dad's farm is right next to yours. Is that correct?
No.
How far is your dad's farm from yours?
My dad's farm is 2.5 to 3 miles.
And your brother, Pat Mullis, is a farmer?
Yes, he is.
And where is his farm in relation to yours?
Northeast,
How far?
4 to 5 miles.
And then Mike Mullis, your brother that we heard from yesterday, also has a farm.
Yes, he is.
And where is his farm in relation to yours?
They're all within 3 miles.
I think yesterday he said about 2 miles or so.
It depends which farm you're talking about.
And even though you have your farm and your dad and your brothers have their farm, you kind of all farm together.
Yes.
Would that be fair to say?
Yes.
And over the years, you've continued to purchase land
Yes.
and you've worked on your business, obviously.
Yes.
And this is your livelihood.
Yes.
And it means a lot to you, correct?
Yes.
And you spend a lot of time farming.
Yes.
And you didn't initially have the hog barns, correct?
I had older ones.
And then you got new hog barns. Would that be fair to say?
Yes.
And when was that?
The first one was in 2012.
And then when did you, so I know you have 2 hog barns currently, correct?
Where I live, yes.
And when did you get that second one?
In 2014.
And then the hog barn business, do you, Pat, Mike, and your dad, are you all part of that?
The 2 at where I live,
Yes.
I own them. And
Does Mike also have a hog barn?
yes,
And does your dad and Pat also have hog barns?
Pat does not.
And you've continued to purchase more land, like you said, correct?
Yes.
And you love being a farmer.
Yes.
And in fact, when you've talked about before about how your dad is so proud of you and your brothers for being farmers.
I've heard him say he's proud of it. Yeah.
And Tristan was really getting into farming with you, correct?
Yes.
In the last couple of months before Amy's death.
His whole life.
And specifically though, wasn't he taking more of an interest in the last couple of months? Helping out a little bit more.
I would say in the last couple of years, he's helped out more.
And he would help out on the weekends
Yes.
and after school.
Yes.
And the only people that worked on your farm were you, Tristan, and Amy, correct?
No, the younger 2 helped too.
Taylor and Wyatt,
Yes.
Taylor and Wyatt at times helped.
Yes, they did.
And I know that sometimes you would help your brothers or they would help you,
Yes.
but you didn't have any hired workers.
No.
And your farm is your legacy, correct? It's what you want to pass on to your children.
If they want to farm.
And well, you talked to Agent Turbot and you talked about how Tristan told you he wants to be a farmer someday
Yes.
and how you're so excited that he wants to be a farmer. Right?
I told him if he wants to be a farmer, then I would help him farm.
And you would pass on your farm to Tristan or any of your kids if they wanted to farm.
Yes.
And when you and Amy married, was it 2004?
Yes.
And Amy is part of your family trust, correct?
Yes, she is.
And you, and your whole family is part of that. Is that correct? I'm sorry, your parents are part of that?
No.
Okay, so I'm sorry. So your trust, it's just you and Amy, is that right?
Yes.
Now you have a Gleamer combine, correct?
Yes.
And you have tractors.
Yes.
And I know you told us yesterday you like to hunt.
Yes.
And you like to do all kinds of hunting and fishing. I think you indicated you like to go to the creek or crick. Is that right?
Yes, with the kids, yes.
And back when this happened in November 2018, you had a flip phone, correct?
Yes.
And you couldn't access the internet from your flip phone.
No.
And Amy had a smartphone
Yes.
where she could access the internet.
Yes.
And I believe Tristan also had a phone. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
And Taylor and Wyatt, did they have phones at that time?
Taylor had a phone.
And were they track phones?
I think Taylor's was.
And Tristan's was also a type of track phone where you had to buy minutes or something.
Yeah, I think you had to buy a card.
Now, we talked a lot about the first affair that Amy had. You remember talking about that yesterday?
Yes.
And at the time that Amy had this affair, she was working at the hospital.
Yes.
And you indicated that after this affair, it was Amy's decision to stop working.
Yes.
She wanted to be a stay-at-home mom,
Yes.
and she just wanted to be there for the kids
She wanted to be there for the kids and us.
and you. And all the kids were full-time in school at that time, correct?
No.
Who was not?
Wyatt.
How old is Wyatt now?
He now is 9.
Okay, so when he was 5, he wasn't in school?
He's 3.
And was he in preschool or any type of schooling?
Not at that time.
When did he start going to school?
I think he went when he was 4. I think he went to pre.
You talked yesterday. Amy loved to go shopping. She loved to go out. She loved to be social.
Yes.
She loved to go out to lunch.
Yes.
She loved to golf.
Yes.
And you encouraged all of these things, you said.
Yes.
You wanted her to get out there and do these things.
If it made her happy, yes.
And you indicated yesterday, it was Amy's decision to leave the hospital.
Yes, she has to.
And Amy met the person that she had the affair with at the hospital, correct?
I don't know if they met at the hospital or not.
Okay, so you and Amy were so open about your relationship, right? After this happened.
Yes.
So you told us yesterday, you told Detective Turbot on November 16th, 2018, that after you guys reconciled,
Mhm.
it was picture perfect, essentially, right?
Yes.
It was a great relationship.
Yes.
You used the words over and over how open it was.
Yes.
And you never talked to Amy about how she met this person that she had an affair with.
She either met at the hospital or at a boating event
Okay.
that was organized together with people at the hospital. So,
Okay, so somehow she met him through the hospital.
yes.
So now you do remember that.
Yes.
Now, let's talk about November 10th, 2018. That morning you said that you just wanted to do some chores around the house, which was normal. Right?
Can you ask that
I'm
again?
sorry. On November 10th, 2018, the day of Amy's murder, in that morning, you got up to do chores.
Yes.
And you were with Tristan.
Yes.
And you and Tristan went, I think you said off-site.
Yes.
And you came back.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Is that a yes? And when you came back, Amy was doing a puzzle.
Yes.
Amy, at that point, seemed fine.
Yes.
And in fact, Amy had plans later in the day to go shopping, correct?
Yes, she did.
She was going to go with Taylor and buy some snow boots.
Yes.
And then you said it was Amy's decision to come outside.
She asked to come out and if we needed help.
She wanted to help. And you and Tristan went out first.
Yes.
And you guys started working around the barn.
Yes.
You were doing some things. Is that yes?
Yes.
Tristan was, bringing heaters, correct?
Yes.
And then Amy started helping as well.
Yes.
And you indicated that Amy got dizzy.
Yes.
And Tristan saw it.
Yes.
And then you saw it too.
Yes.
And at that point, you were really worried about her.
I was concerned at that time. Yes.
Right. Obviously, this is your wife. You care about her.
Yes.
You didn't want anything to happen to her.
No.
And you knew that she had this procedure 4 days ago.
Yes.
And at that point, after the first time, you didn't tell her to go inside.
I asked if she was okay.
And she said yes.
Yes.
And she wanted to stay out there.
Yes.
So she again started working.
Yes.
And at that time, she gets dizzy again.
Yes.
And I'm sure at this point, you're extremely concerned about her.
Yes, I was concerned. I don't know if I was extremely concerned. I just asked if she was okay.
Well, you were so concerned, you told her to stop working.
I asked if she needed to go to the house.
And she said yes?
She said no.
So then that's when you said, you know what? I just want you to stop. But first, let's go get that pet carrier.
It was after 2 to 3 or 4 times of asking her.
Okay, so just so that we're clear, at least twice,
Yes.
you know she's dizzy.
Yes.
And probably you just said 3 or 4 times you asked her to go in the house.
I asked if she was okay and to go to the house.
Okay. And
If she needed to.
if she needed
If she could continue.
And she kept insisting she just wanted to be out there and working.
Yes.
And then at that point, you say, well, actually yesterday you said, Tristan said, hey, you know what, Mom, if you can help us, or you can help us go get that pet carrier.
Yes.
So Tristan sends Amy to get the pet carrier.
He didn't send her. He asked,
I'm
hey,
sorry, it was
it was
his
a
idea.
conversation
It was
between
his
all
idea.
of us.
I'm sorry.
It was a conversation between all of us.
Oh, between all of you. So who asked Amy to go get the pet carrier?
Who asked Amy? It was both of us, really.
Okay. Yesterday you testified, right?
Yes.
And yesterday when you testified, you said Tristan asked Amy to go get the pet carrier. You recall that, right?
He asked her first, and then I asked her.
Okay.
Second.
So first Tristan asked her, then you asked her.
Yes.
And the pet carrier is pretty big, right?
What's big, I guess.
Well, okay. You heard Tristan's testimony, correct?
Yes.
And when Tristan said that he probably estimated it was 15 or 20 pounds.
He said it was 15 pounds.
Okay. Would you agree with that?
I would say it's be 10 to 15 pounds, yes.
Sorry, just one moment. Todd, I'm showing you a State's Exhibit 16 that's been admitted into evidence. This is the pet carrier, correct?
Yes, it is.
And that's where that was where it was located in the red shed.
Yes.
And you saw a lot of pictures yesterday and the day before about the red shed, from the red shed.
Yes.
And those were true and accurate depictions of the way that the red shed appeared on the day of Amy's murder.
Yes.
And when you walk into the red shed, it's a pretty narrow space, correct?
Yes.
And correct me if I'm wrong, when you walk in, you turn to the left, you turn to the left, and that's where Amy's body was found.
Yes.
So you walk in, and you saw pictures yesterday, you couldn't get the door open, right? Because it was frozen shut.
Yes.
So you walk in, and if you go straight to the left, there's a very narrow pathway.
Yes.
And that's where Amy's body is found.
Yes.
And she's found on her hands and knees.
Yes.
And she's found with a corn rake sticking out of her back.
Yes.
And then if you go past where Amy's body was found, you turn right. Is that correct?
Yes.
And there's almost like with the crates in there, it almost is almost like a path. Would that be fair to say?
Yes.
And you turn right. And if you look in this photo, Exhibit 16, you kind of see once you turn right, that little passageway. Would that be fair to say?
Yes.
And there's an auger there. You see that at the bottom of this photo.
Yes.
And once you make that right turn and you're looking down into the red shed, what's on your right-hand side?
As soon as you turn,
Yes.
I think there was chemical totes.
And what's on the left side?
There was some jugs and junk there at first, and then there was some saddle things.
And then, so where is this pet carrier from once you turn right after you found Amy's body? Is it on the right side or the left side?
After you turn, it'd be on the left.
Okay, so this picture here would be looking down, and this pet carrier would be on the left. I think you just said that. Does that make sense?
If I would be on the other side, looking
Okay.
this way.
And this also isn't, you indicated that there's items on both sides, right?
Yes.
And it's also, it's not a huge passageway or a huge area, is it?
Depends where you're at.
Okay, so where the pet carrier is, how wide is it?
Between the pet carrier and the wagon, probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 feet.
Okay, and this is where the pet carrier was that day, correct?
Yes.
And this is the photograph, you know, that the police took this photograph after Amy's murder.
Yes.
And this is the specific pet carrier that you and Tristan together asked Amy to go and get.
Yes.
And you know that she had that procedure 4 days prior, correct?
Yes.
And you actually took her to that procedure
Yes, I did.
and you brought her home from it.
Yes.
And you actually signed your name on her discharge papers, correct? Because she was being discharged to you.
Yes.
And it said on there that she's not to carry anything over 10 pounds, correct?
She was recommended not to carry
Okay.
anything over 10 pounds.
But you felt at that point she was fine to go and get the pet carrier, right? Meaning she could carry something over 10 pounds. You thought she could handle it.
She said yes.
And you thought she could just take it and, bring it out of that passageway and into that narrow area.
I hadn't been over there for a couple months.
But you knew where it was.
Yes.
And this is your property.
Yes.
This is your shed.
Yes.
You've owned this shed for how long?
Long as I've been there.
So since 1999 when you bought this property.
Yes.
And it sounds like you care a lot of, you spend a lot of time on your farm, so you know where stuff is on your property.
Yes.
Now, it's at that point, or I'm sorry, you see Amy leave, and you and Tristan are in the barn, the hog barn. Is that right?
Yeah.
And you don't see Amy for how long?
And as long as it took to finish, about an hour.
Okay, so during that time, or I'm sorry, after that time, you said that you realized that the pet carrier wasn't by the shop.
Yes.
And who's the one that says, oh man, the pet carrier's not there, you or Tristan?
I think I commented that it wasn't over there, and then Tristan said it isn't.
And then whose decision was it? I believe yesterday you said that Tristan said, I'll go check.
He asked, do you think I should go check and see what's going on?
Okay, so he didn't go to check on Amy in the house, right?
No.
Because your assumption would be that if it's an hour's time that Amy would be in the house, right?
Yes.
That she would have gotten that pet carrier or couldn't get it and went back in the house.
Yes.
But it was Tristan's idea to go and look for Amy.
We had told her that if she couldn't get it, it would be fine. Then go in the house.
Okay, so you told her it was fine. Did you tell the police that when you talked to them after this happened?
No.
So then at that point, you're taking off your boots, right?
Yes.
And Tristan goes to the red shed.
Yes.
And you hear Tristan scream for you.
He yelled, yes.
Yelled, I'm sorry. And you run over there.
After he yelled the second time, yes.
And you run over there and you go into that red shed and you see your wife on the ground.
Yes.
And just explain to us the position you saw Amy in.
She was more or less hunched up in kind of I guess you'd call it a fetal position.
Was she
Well-
on her knees
Yes.
and were her hands down like you just indicated? Kind of, the palms are down, if you remember.
I don't know if I remember how her hands were sitting.
Okay.
She was hunched up with her jacket hunched up.
And I think you told, okay, and you see this corn rake sticking out of her.
Yes.
You have your phone on you.
Yes.
You don't call 911 right away.
No.
You immediately try to pick her up.
No. I looked and I turned her face towards me to see if she was breathing or alive. And I was asking her name, Amy.
Then she's not responsive at all.
No.
And that rake is still sticking out of her.
Yes.
Now, just give me 1 second. Todd, I'm showing you State's Exhibit 21. Is this the area that you actually saw Amy?
Yes.
So there's like a rag, it looks like a blue or gray rag on the bottom there. Do you see that?
Yes.
In relation to that rag, where do you see Amy's body?
It was actually where the doors come together, where the white looking rag was.
Oh, I'm sorry. So past that blue rag, you see the white rag on the floor. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And then to the left of that, it does look, there's like almost like an opening between the doors.
Yes.
And that's where you saw Amy's body.
She was right on where the doors come together.
Where's her head?
Her head is down right on the edge of where the edge of the concrete.
And which way is her head facing?
Which way is her head facing?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
More or less straight down or slightly out.
Is it facing towards where you enter the barn or away from where you enter the barn? Or the red shed, I apologize.
Her head was towards the opening where you go in.
And the
Hey,
rig,
Jen, pause it for a minute.
Yes.
and it's sticking out.
Yes.
And it has a handle, but it's a broken.
Oh, dang it. Now I see what you're talking about, that she could have tripped, which it's gone too far. But now I see where you say she could have had her foot fall off that concrete. I didn't realize what it looked like. See right there?
Mm-hmm.
So past that,
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize that that's how it was facing. So her foot could have fell in that. And she fell all over the place. And hit her face on and her hands on the whatever that grate thing is.
That's the chemical bins. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the chemical bins.
Hmm.
Okay, so in my opinion, based on the pictures of the injuries, I don't think that it's likely she hit her chin on the chemical bin here, but more, it's very possible she cracked it on this cement.
How would that work
Because-
if it was cold? Like, I feel like he said that she was more or less looking straight ahead. So probably on her chin. Like, I'm thinking like, I don't know how like frostbite or, you know what I mean? From being so cold. It's winter.
I don't think I don't think it was cold enough for her to have gotten frostbite, babe, or they all would have had it. Because they
But
were
if
all
she's,
outside.
if that's where her chin is on the concrete though.
You mean like stuck to it?
Well, not stuck to it, but like resting on it, yeah.
I don't.
Like,
Well,
I just didn't know like if that cold would cause any additional.
it would have, but it would have been identified. There's a difference between what frostbite does to your skin versus being hit with or blunt force trauma, which, to be fair, you know, yeah, I mean, she could have been hit with it, or she could have, hit with something, right, which is blunt force trauma. But also, if you yourself, your body hits something, fall through a fall, that would also be, blunt force trauma, because it's not something sharp. It doesn't poke through the skin, cut the skin. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was just thinking because like blunt force trauma, like that was a big bruise, and they didn't, from what we know, they didn't indicate like any injuries in her mouth or on her lips, or you know what I mean, like she didn't bite her tongue or bite her lip or anything like that. So that's why it confuses me of how that bruise would be so big.
Well, I think part of the problem and the confusion is in the description of just exactly how Amy was found, because he's saying that she's on her knees, okay, and that her head is straight down but sort of to the side. Well,
I kind of picture her like Shanann was, but maybe like arms in different spot, obviously. But in like that little, because I think Shanann was on her knees, too, bent over.
That's a good point, Allie 79. That is a small space for a struggle. Now that I see this picture, accidents entered my mind again.
I just there's just it's I don't understand how anybody can base anything on the information that has been presented at this point. I don't know where the rake was. I don't know. We I still don't know how she really was found because initially that's not how he said she was found. He said she was hunched over. You know, he's used it's not that he just doesn't have very many details. And I know everybody's brains work differently when they're subjected to trauma. Some people shut down completely and it's completely blank. And other people remember every single detail. It's too difficult I can't understand any of this. I'm going to keep playing while I think about it because otherwise it's going to be, I'm going to annoy myself rambling.
Blue rag, you see the white rag on the floor. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And then to the left of that, it does look, there's like almost like an opening between the doors.
Yes.
And that's where you saw Amy's body.
She was right on where the doors come together.
Where's her head?
Her head is down right on the edge of where the edge of the concrete.
And which way is her head facing?
Which way is her head facing?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
More or less straight down or slightly out.
Is it facing towards where you enter the barn or away from where you enter the barn? Or the red shed, I apologize.
Her head was towards the opening where you go in.
And the rake is impaled in her back.
Yes.
And it's sticking out.
Yes.
And it has a handle, but it's a broken handle.
Yes.
So where's the handle of the rake? Which direction is it going? Is it going towards those crates or is it going towards the door or where is it at?
Towards the crates.
So at that point, you lift up Amy's head and that's when she's not responsive.
She's not responsive.
And Tristan is right there.
Yes.
Your 13-year-old son.
Yes.
And Tristan is about to pass out, correct?
Not at that time. I was aware. I didn't look at him.
Okay. Well, when you're interviewed by John Turbot on November 16th, 2018, you do tell him that at this point, you look at Tristan and you think Tristan's about to pass out.
I thought he was about to pass out after I was carrying her out.
Okay. So it wasn't until that time you realized that.
Yes.
And so Tristan's standing right by you.
He's behind me.
Behind you. You then decide to lift Amy up.
I pulled her away from the door.
And so how did you pull her? Did you pull her towards you?
No. She was leaning up against the door, where the doors come together. I had my hand on her face and I reached over to her right side. I pulled her away from the door slightly to see if I could get her up.
And you weren't able to get her up.
The handle, when I pulled her over, contacted the chemical tote.
So then at that point, you decide to take out the rake.
Yes.
And I think you indicated you had to kind of manipulate it, pull it out.
Not really.
Not really?
No.
So it was pretty easy. It just popped right out.
It seemed to pull right out.
Even it's on a curve, right? You didn't have to do anything but just pull it right out.
It pulled straight out.
And then
They're not
I think you just threw it,
spirals.
right? You just threw it.
Like,
I had it in one hand. I had her in the other.
So you're holding the corn rake. Then what do you do?
I threw the corn rake and then I got under her armpits to
So
lift her up.
you actually pick her up by her armpits.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
And where does her body then make contact with your body?
In my chest.
So you're holding her. Where's her face?
Right in this area, right in my chest.
And is it almost like you're bear hugging her and holding her at the same time? Is that fair to say?
In a way, yes.
And at that point, you don't yell to Tristan to call 911.
No.
You don't call 911.
I don't know if he had his phone.
But you had your phone.
Yes.
And then, is that when you tell Tristan to go get the truck?
Yes.
And where's the truck located?
I don't remember exactly where it was. I told him to go get it.
Okay. And so while Tristan's doing that, what are you doing?
I'm in the process of getting her out of the shed.
You're getting her out of the shed. Does Tristan pull up the truck?
Yes.
And he pulls it right up to like the door of the red shed?
No.
Where does he pull it?
He pulls it. There's a U-shaped driveway, and then there's a small driveway that was behind, that connects the red shed to the other driveway. It's hard to explain.
So how far would you say from the red shed he pulls up?
I say 30 feet, 40 feet.
So you're carrying Amy for how long would you say?
It took a lot of manipulation to get her out, and then I picked her up, and I was carrying her like this in both arms. So you're asking time?
Do you know how long? A minute, 2 minutes?
Maybe a minute, I'm estimating that.
So then Tristan pulls up the truck and he gets in the front passenger seat.
He comes out, that's when he was shook up.
Okay, that's when you think you thought maybe he might pass out.
Yes, he just saw me carrying her,
And
and I told him
obviously-
to open the door up.
This is very traumatic for both of you.
Yes,
I mean, so he gets in the front seat,
yes,
in the passenger seat.
yes,
And is at that point that you put your wife on top of your 13-year-old son? You lay her
Yes.
body on top of his.
yes.
Okay. Nobody's in the back seat. I know it's a truck. Nobody's back there.
There was nobody else.
And Amy's bleeding, correct?
I didn't see her bleeding.
Okay. You pulled that corn rake out.
Yes,
And you said yesterday you're a doer, right? You're a doer. That's why you didn't call 911. That's why you pulled that rake out.
yes,
That's what, and you, I mean, being a farmer, I'm sure that there's always things that happen, right? You are always having to, you're handy, you're always trying to, I'm sure the kids are getting injured on the farm doing stuff, right? You're a good dad. You have to make sure that you're there for them and helping them.
yes.
And you know, have you ever heard that you should never pull something out of someone when they have something in them, a knife or a fork or anything like that?
I never heard that.
You've never heard that.
No.
You've never seen that. I know you said yesterday that you love to watch all these shows and you guys like to watch all these things about ancient tribes and all that stuff. You've never, in anything that you've ever watched, ever heard that if somebody's impaled with something, you shouldn't pull it out of them.
I didn't recall it at the time.
So you may have heard it. You just weren't thinking about it then.
I wasn't thinking about it that time.
And so you didn't see Amy bleeding at that point.
No,
So you lay Amy on top of Tristan and then you run to the front driver's seat.
yes,
And you start driving.
yes,
And your goal at that point is to get Amy to the hospital.
yes,
That's all you're focused on.
yes.
And you want to make sure she's okay.
Try and get her help, yes.
What hospital were you driving to?
I was going to try to go to Manchester.
And how far is that from your house?
15 minutes.
You said yesterday after you pull out of the driveway, that's when.
Objection.
you
Shmita
think, "Oh,
mapped it
now I'm
out
gonna
and
call
it's
911."
20.
Yes,
And you pull your phone out of your pocket. You
yes,
call 911.
yes,
Now, let's talk a little bit about this corn rake. You saw it, I know you saw it in court here and you've seen it before because it's your corn rake, correct?
it was on the farm when I bought it, yes.
And so you've had it since 1999.
No,
Oh, you just said it was on the farm when I bought it.
it was on the farm across the road when I bought it,
Okay, so do you know what year that was?
2012.
So you've had that rake since 2012. Do you know how the handle got broken?
No,
And is that corn rake always left in the red shed?
no,
Where is it usually at?
it was in the barn across the road. It was in the shop.
Before the time that you see it sticking out of your wife's back, when was the last time you saw it before that?
The last time I saw it, I think, was on the grass.
And when would that have been?
I'd say earlier in October.
Okay,
I was
so
filling
the
up the
month
combine with
so
fuel.
within a month before Amy's death.
Yes.
So you don't know where it was. You yourself didn't know it was in the red shed.
I think I did.
You did on November 10th, you knew it was in Amy's, I'm sorry, on November 10th, you knew it was in the red shed.
If I had to think back, yes.
So I thought you just said a minute ago that the last time you saw it was on the grass somewhere.
It was on the grass, and then I had to move it, and I put it in the red shed to get it off the grass.
Okay, I'm sorry. So sometime in October, you saw it on the grass
Yes.
and you moved it inside the red shed.
I set it inside the door.
And when you set it inside the door, we've talked about when you walk in, did you set it on the right-hand side or the left-hand side?
I don't remember, but it was probably the right.
And you just set it there.
I put it inside the door.
Didn't like hang it up or put it in a certain area or on top of anything.
I don't remember.
Now, are there any other type of rakes in that red shed?
Not that I can recall.
What else is in, I know we talked a little bit about it. In that red shed, there's the augers and there's a lot of crates and stuff like that. Is there anything else that's in there?
There's the sweep augers there that you see. There's a wagon with fertilizer tanks on it.
And when you say a wagon, what do you mean by wagon? Just to explain.
It's an old hay rack with the top cut off, and it's got fertilizer tanks on it.
Now, while you and Tristan were in the hog barn, you're working and Tristan's working, right?
Yes.
And the hog barn is about the size of a football field.
Yes.
And Tristan's 13. He knows what he's doing, right? He knows
Yes.
how to help you farm.
Yes.
And you're doing stuff and he's doing stuff.
Yes.
And you're not listening to any music.
No.
And it's just a November morning when you guys are working in there just like any other day.
Yes.
You don't hear anybody outside after Amy leaves the hog barn.
I did not hear anybody outside.
You didn't hear any trucks pull up or cars.
The only thing I heard was maybe a few semis going down the road.
Because the road is pretty close, right off. When you turn into your farm, the road is, you obviously turn off the road, correct?
Yes.
And you kind of have I know we looked at the picture yesterday, you kind of have like not a full circle driveway, but it kind of goes in a half circle. Would that be fair to say? Kind of?
Sure. Yes.
And that's the road onto your farm.
Yes.
So you can hear some semis going by.
Sometimes.
And that day, if you actually heard semis?
I wasn't paying attention.
And you didn't hear, though, anybody drive onto your driveway or drive onto your property?
I did not hear.
You did not hear anybody walking outside?
I don't know how I could.
You didn't see anybody, right?
How could I?
Well, there's some windows out of the office, right?
I wasn't in the office.
Okay, so at no point you went to the office?
No.
And you don't hear, how far is the red shed from the hog barn that you were in?
Depends where you're at in the hog building.
Okay, so tell me, can you approximate?
From the very southwest corner of the north hog barn to maybe the northeast corner of the red shed, I would estimate it at 150 feet.
Okay, so that's from the furthest, so if you go the furthest corner away from the red shed, that's 150, is that
No.
right? Okay, so I'm sorry.
The closest points,
The closest point you said is 150 feet?
I would say.
And the farthest point is what? If you had to guess. I mean, it would be 150 feet
Plus a football field. Yes.
And at no point do you hear Amy screaming.
No.
You don't hear any signs of any struggle.
No.
You hear nothing.
No.
Just you and Tristan working.
What we're doing, yes.
Now, after this happens, you go to the hospital, correct?
Yes.
And at the hospital, family starts showing up.
Yes.
Your parents show up.
Those family and friends show up. Yes.
Okay, so your parents, your sister Lynn shows up, correct?
Yes.
Bob and Eileen, Amy's dad and stepmom show up.
Yes.
Eventually, Peg and Randy show up. They're coming from a little bit further.
Yes.
And then there's also, I think there's some more family too showing up.
Yeah, Jeff showed up, and
There's friends, like you said, some friends are showing up.
yes.
Amy works at the hospital. Some people are stopping by that she used to work with.
Yes.
And everyone keeps asking you what happened.
Not everyone.
Well, you remember talking to Bob and Eileen about what happened, right?
He asked what happened. Yes.
And you told him, I don't know, she fell on a corn rake.
I said, I really don't know, Bob, what happened.
Okay, you never said she fell on a corn rake?
I don't recall the conversation.
You said it in the 911 call that we listened to, right?
Yes, I did.
You said she fell on a corn rake, right?
Yes.
You also said, I sent my son to go find her, right?
Yes.
Now, that same day, you're at the hospital and Deputy Thompson asks to talk to you for a little bit.
Yes.
Remember that? And there's a video of that, right?
I've never seen it.
You've never seen it, but you remember talking to him.
I remember talking to him twice.
And it's shortly after Amy is pronounced dead.
Yes, I think so. I
Don't know the exact
I don't
time.
know the exact
Okay.
time before or after.
And he just wants to talk to you about what happened.
Yes.
And you start telling him about your day.
Yes.
And you tell him about how Amy was dizzy
Yes.
and how you sent her in to get the pet carrier, everything that you said today, right?
Whatever I said at the time, yes.
And you insist several times, you keep telling him that Amy was dizzy that day. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And that he asks you, Deputy Thompson asks you, were you with Tristan the whole time? And you say, yep, we were together the whole time. You remember that?
Yes.
And at that time, you do say a couple times, I don't know. I want to know what happened. You say that, right? Do you remember saying that?
Yes, I do.
And you say, man, I want to go back. I want to go back to the farm and see for myself. How this happen? You say that, right?
That was at the sheriff's office, yes.
Well, you also say it to Deputy Thompson, don't you? Initially at the hospital?
I don't remember. I was asked multiple times by.
And at that time, you don't say anything about, wait, I have cameras. Let's go see if we can catch something on camera. You don't say that to Deputy Thompson, do you?
No.
Because at that point, you don't know that they're not working, right?
No, I did not.
Because according to you, those cats probably just did it. That's what you think.
Afterwards, yeah.
So then a little bit later, you talk to Sheriff LeClaire. You recall that the same day?
Yes.
And with Sheriff LeClaire, Luke Thompson is also there from the deputy, or Deputy Luke Thompson is also there.
Yes.
And when you're talking to them, again, you keep talking.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask you guys, you think we should make this go a little faster?
Yeah, I just typed it in chat, but I didn't hit send. I was like, you could probably put this on 1.25 at least.
All right.
They go pretty quick though. I mean, like they're back and forth quite quickly.
Okay,
So,
see,
I mean,
so
I wouldn't go too fast.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go.
I do. Yeah, one
Okay,
point.
okay.
Yeah, we'll check it and see.
Okay.
About how Amy was dizzy that day, because you're telling what happened.
Yes.
And you're asked if anybody else was on the farm or if you heard anybody, and you said no because you didn't, right?
Yes.
And you again say that you were with Tristan the whole time.
Yes.
And this, do you, if you remember, I know it was a really difficult day for you. But do you remember how much time from the interview with Deputy Thompson until the interview with LeClaire and Thompson?
Well, I remember Luke asking me 2 different times at the hospital.
Okay, that's right. I'm sorry. You talked to him twice.
And then he asked me if I could go downtown.
So would it be within a few hours, would you say?
Yeah, it was within, I would say, an hour.
So then you actually go to the Delaware County Sheriff's Office.
Yes.
And during that interview, you never say, oh, wait, I have cameras. Let's go check them.
I never said.
And obviously your mind's racing and you're trying to figure out what happened, right?
Yes.
But you never think about that. At that time, I'm sorry.
At that time, because it was inside the shed.
And, well, but you said yesterday that the next day, then you thought of it, right? You thought, oh, I'm gonna go check those cameras. Right?
Yes.
And you went to go check them because your wife just had a horrible accident and died.
Yes.
So you thought of it the next day,
Yes.
even though there wasn't a camera in the red shed.
When I talked to family, when I got home,
Oh, they reminded you.
they said, I wonder if something would be on the cameras that would show maybe some sign of anything.
And that's when you go into the shop and you see, oh, they haven't recorded, right?
I see the antennas on the ground, everything was off, or
And then-
on the screen.
But then you make sure you kind of get them working again.
Yeah, I got them up on the windowsill.
Now, obviously, this is a very traumatic time for you. You guys have Amy's services and you're grieving with everything, right?
Yes.
And several days go by and you still think this is an accident
Yes.
because you can't think of another explanation.
Yes.
And on November 16th, 2018, you still think it's an accident when you go to the police station and talk to Agent John Turbett.
Yes.
And you still thought it was an accident, even though you found her on her hands and knees, face down, correct?
Yes.
Even though a corn rake was sticking out of her back.
Yes.
You're still just thinking, I can't believe that this happened. I can't believe she fell on a corn rake. That's what you're thinking.
I had no idea what happened.
So on November 16th, 2018, you speak with John Turbett. Initially, Sheriff LeClaire is in there, right?
Yes.
And then it's just you and John.
Yes.
And you're talking about what happened.
Yes.
And that whole first part, you guys are just talking about your life, your farm, Tristan, your kids, how you're such a great dad, everything like that, right?
Yes.
And at the beginning of that interview, Agent Turbett asks you how things are going. How's your marriage? And initially you say great, right? Because they were.
Yeah.
And then after a while, he says to you, all right, let's talk a little bit more about your marriage. Tell me the good and the bad. Is there any bad? And you tell him about that first affair.
Yes.
And you tell him that you found out about it and that, you guys reconciled.
Yes.
And you tell him since then, things have been great, right?
For the most part, yes.
You tell him that you guys were able to work through that, go to a little bit of counseling and move forward.
Yes.
And that was when Amy quit working at the hospital and you said because your family was really important to you, you wanted to just keep going, right?
Yes.
So then Agent Turbett asks you, since that affair, the last 5 years, how have things been going? And you keep telling him, great. They're great, right?
I don't remember what I said, but yeah.
Well, you
I think-
watched
yes.
You watched the clip yesterday,
Yes.
right? The first clip
Yep.
started with him asking you, how have the last 5 years been? And you say, great, we're so open. It's been awesome, right? Because it has been.
I have so
Yes.
many objections for
he
leading that I
says to
cannot
you,
even keep my
anything
mouth shut
else,
anymore.
anything you need to, and any problems, anything, and you say no.
Her whole thing's been
Right?
leading. I've been waiting for Jen
Then
to
we resolve our
scream.
problems.
Right. He says, in the last 5 years, anything you want to tell me, you say no.
Yes.
And it's at that point that Agent Turbett brings up Jerry Frazier and he just says to you, hey, do you have a Jerry Frazier that works on your farm? And you say, yeah.
Yeah.
Because he does, right? He would come, he would help with the hogs and everything.
Yes.
And Agent Turbett goes on to ask you, how's your relationship with him? You say fine, because it is. You told us that, right?
Yes.
And then he asks you about Amy and Jerry's
I'm not
relationship.
screaming
And you say,
because
good,
it's not
business,
leading if
nothing-
it's
nothing
cross.
to cause me any concern.
Yes.
And he asks you at the end of that conversation before he walks out of the room, anything else I need to know about Jerry Frazier? And you say no, right?
Yes.
Which was not the truth, right? Because you didn't tell him at that point about the fact that you confronted Amy and Jerry about the affair. You didn't bring it.
I didn't bring it up
You
that
didn't
time.
bring it up then. He leaves the room, right? Agent
Yes.
Turbett, sorry. And about 3 minutes later, he comes in and gives you some water.
Yes.
It's at that point that you do, as soon as
I
he
have a
walks
lot
in, you
to
say, you
say
know what?
about that, but I'll hold it.
There was something with Jerry and Amy, right?
Yes.
And that's when then you tell him that, initially you say that, I was a little bit uncomfortable, but it wasn't a big deal. But then I told them, keep it professional, right?
Yes.
And that's what happened.
Yes.
You just wanted them to keep it professional.
Yes.
Now, you and John then go on to talk about this, and you say you put that past you, right?
Yes.
And that's what you told us yesterday. You put this all past you.
Yes.
There's some rumors that come out in August, but you weren't concerned about them, right?
Not after Amy and I talked. No.
Right, because you felt confident that Amy wasn't doing anything.
Yes.
Now, back to this interview on November 16th. up until that point, for 6 days, you're dealing with Amy's death, right?
Yes,
And you're taking care of the kids,
yes,
and you're arranging pretty much everything for her services, and just obviously, I know your family's helping you. Is that right?
yes,
And obviously, this is a tough time for you,
yes,
and you're really upset. Are you upset? Would it be fair to say you're upset? Obviously.
yes,
And I mean, you're at that point. You told me you still think it's an accident because you had no other explanation.
yes.
So Agent Turbot tells you that this is a homicide.
All he's
correct?
saying is yes. How's that not
At some
leading?
point, yes.
You never even thought about it being a homicide at that point.
I got to remember how he said it, but
Well, at some point he tells you, we think you're responsible for
Yes.
Amy's murder. At some
Yes.
point he says, you killed Amy.
yes,
And he does tell you that at some point the medical examiners have ruled it a homicide. Right?
yes, at some point.
And that was not out in the news yet. You did not, that report was not released yet. So that's the first time you're hearing it.
Yes,
And you didn't really respond. Would you agree with that?
I didn't know what to think.
Right. But Agent Turbot just told you that somebody came onto your property and killed your wife and you didn't respond.
I was dumbfounded.
Right. Like you couldn't even believe it, right?
Yes,
Because at this point, for 6 days, you're thinking it's an accident. And now somebody tells you that somebody came on and killed Amy when you were yards away, right?
yes,
Your wife, Amy was your wife, right?
yes,
Somebody that you swore to love and protect, right?
yes,
And you feel, I mean, this is somebody you care about. You have children with her, obviously, right?
yes,
And somebody came onto your property right under your nose and killed her, right? That's what you're told.
that's what I'm told.
And you know that's true now because you heard all the testimony in this case, right?
Yes,
You know that somebody took that corn rake and stabbed Amy in the back 2 or 3 times.
yes,
You now know this wasn't an accident.
yes,
Later that same day, John Turbot is at your house with the other agents and officers, and they're executing search warrants, right?
yes,
And he asks you to take him around again to kind of show him, to go through your story or what happened, right?
he has to see buildings. Yes,
And again, he says to you, Todd, this was a homicide, and you don't respond at all. Do you?
no,
You're still in shock. Was that be fair to say?
I was in shock and I didn't. Yeah,
And he even says the word to you, we want justice for Amy. Do you remember him saying that to
No.
you? Oh, you don't remember that. And you at no point through that conversation that day when they're executing the search warrants say anything about any suspects? Or I'm sorry, give them any ideas of who might come onto your property and kill Amy.
I don't remember them asking me that. No, they wanted to blame me.
At no point did you, during your interview with John Turbot, did you tell him anybody that you think would maybe want to kill Amy?
No,
And as you sit here today, you don't know who would possibly want to do this to Amy.
no,
And yesterday, I think you said Amy was social. She was all over the place. She had a lot of friends, right?
I wouldn't say she has a lot of friends.
Okay, so she has friends that she
She has
does things
friends.
with. But you had you still, as you sit here today, can't think of any person that would want to do this to your wife.
No,
Any person that would know that she was in the red shed at that exact time. You can't think of any person. Can you?
right now or then.
Then, could you think of anybody?
I couldn't think of anybody then.
Now, Terry Stainer was one of Amy's friends.
Yes,
And, and you were friends with Terry too.
yes,
You liked Terry, you communicated with her.
yes.
Amy was close to her and went out with her and did things with her, right?
On occasion, yes,
You saw those text messages that came in through Amy that you sent her, sometimes talking about Amy, right?
yes,
You told Terry about your suspicions about the affair with Jerry Frazier, right?
I told her about text messages.
Told her about text messages, and you also talked to her a little bit about those rumors that came out sometime in August, right?
Yes,
So, Todd, we talked about this a little bit. Let's go back to your flip phone. You have a flip phone that you cannot search the internet on, right?
yes,
And your Gmail account is toddmullis76@gmail.com.
yes,
And Amy had her own Gmail account, correct?
yes,
And I believe it was mullisrn@gmail.com. Does that sound about right?
yes,
And that iPad is yours.
It's the farms.
It's the farms. Well, there's a laptop at your home, correct?
Yes.
And that laptop is used for the family. It kind of stays generally in the kitchen or living room area.
Yes.
And then the kids, there was 3 Kindles that were recovered from your house, correct?
I think so, yes.
And then Amy's phone was recovered. I think you gave that
Yes.
to the police. And then this iPad, you recall that? You recall the police asking you about this iPad that day when they were executing the search warrants?
They asked for all computers, yes.
Okay, so they actually ask you, hey, do you have anything else? And you volunteer, you say, oh, I have an iPad, right?
Yes.
You say you do. And you say it's in your tractor.
I said it's not mom and dad's.
Okay, and you're there, your sister Lynn is there, right?
Yes.
And you're talking to Agent Turbot and Travis Hemsath from the Delaware County Sheriff's Office.
Yes.
And they ask you if you can get them in the iPad. Do you recall that?
Say that again.
They ask you because you're
Yes.
sorry,
Yes, they asked me.
if you can get it. And actually, it's your sister Lynn that calls your brother Mike and says, hey, will you bring us the iPad?
Yes.
So a few minutes later, Mike comes and he hands you the iPad.
He hands it to the
He
deputies.
hands it to the deputies in front of you, right?
Yes.
And the officers ask you if that's your iPad, and you say yeah.
Yeah.
And you say that it has a wireless or cellular service, so you can use it when you're out on the farm.
If I'm out in the field.
I'm sorry, because so you don't have to be connected to Wi-Fi.
Yes.
And they even ask you if anybody else uses it, right?
I don't know if they asked me that or
Well,
not.
they asked you that, and you said sometimes the kids do. Does that sound about right?
Yeah. I can't remember exactly what I said. Yeah.
Okay. And you heard your brother Mike testify yesterday that he remembers one time searching for something on that iPad,
That's what he said. Yes.
and he knew the password.
Yes.
And after this iPad is handed over to the agents, Travis Hemsath asks you for the password,
Yes.
and you don't give it to him right away, right?
I hesitated because I never been through this before.
Right.
I didn't know if it
You
was.
had no idea what
I
was
had
going
no
on.
idea what was going on.
And you look at your attorney, Bob Sabers,
Yeah. I looked at him and
and
yes.
he says, go ahead and give it to him.
Yes.
And so you give it to him.
Yes.
And did you actually set up that iPad?
No.
Who would have set it up?
Amy.
So she set it up with your Gmail account.
Yes.
And you're familiar, you have an actual Gmail account.
That she set up. Yes.
Okay, but you sent emails from it.
A few.
So you understand, do you understand how Google works? Do you know how that works?
No.
Well, so on your iPad, you have a Google app, right? Or you can go to the Google website.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
we'll get into it, but some of
Yeah.
those searches are yours, right?
Yes.
I mean, you admit there
Yes.
are times you use that iPad to search things.
Yes.
So you know that you go and you can either go to the app or you can go to like Safari and go to Google through there. Does that
Yes.
make sense?
Yes.
You also have a way on your iPad to get your Gmail, which is just your email, right?
I usually went on Safari,
Okay.
put Gmail in, and then my email would.
Then your email would pop up. And when you wanted to do a Google search, would you go to Safari or would you hit the Google app, if you remember?
As a button.
Okay. But every time you went on that iPad, you didn't have to, you didn't go to settings and connect your Gmail account, right?
Settings, no,
No, because your Gmail account was already set to that iPad.
I guess.
And like you said, some of those Google searches were yours,
Yes.
but sometimes Amy would use your iPad.
She would use the iPad, yes.
Okay. Amy would physically use that iPad, right? Like
Yes.
to search things, obviously yesterday, like that wedding stuff and bride stuff. I mean, like you said, you didn't do that, right?
No, I did not.
Pinterest, none of that stuff.
No.
That wasn't you. But there are lots of Google searches. I know it's like 80 pages. You said yesterday you briefly went over those Google searches, right?
Yes.
I think when your attorney asked you, you said that you started looking through them. And, but I mean, if you look through them, and I know you looked through them briefly, there's lots of ones that you know you did do,
Yes.
that you actually typed in and searched things.
Yes.
And things about hunting and combines and bows and all kinds of things. Right?
Yes.
And on July 26, 2018, there's a bunch of searches about Jerry Frazier's address, Christy Frazier, and you did those.
Yes.
And that was right around the time that you confronted Jerry and his wife, or I'm sorry, confronted Jerry and then called his wife. Right?
Yes.
And a couple days before that, there's a search for menopause symptoms. And you told us you were looking up about whether or not you thought Amy was premenopausal, right?
I don't remember when I looked that up.
But you do remember looking it up.
Yes.
And I know I asked you this, you have a flip phone, so you can't do internet searching on your phone.
No,
So your primary, when you would look things up, it would be on that iPad
that or on the computer.
or on the computer. Whose Gmail account was connected to the computer?
All of ours.
Okay, well,
I don't know who's.
you don't know whose was, okay.
I'm not.
So it would be, but all right, sorry. So let's see, sorry. On December 25th, 2017, there's a search for was killing more accepted centuries ago. Did you do that search?
I think Amy did that.
Okay, so you remember.
I think we were looking it up together after we watched a documentary on
December 25th. So you guys were watching a documentary on Christmas. You remember that? Okay. And then now I know yesterday you were asked about the search, boys being raised like pussies. You remember that?
Yes.
And you said you didn't do it, right?
I didn't do the search, no.
You think Amy did that one?
We had talked about it, and
So-
I'm assuming
So
she
you're
did it.
assuming she did. You don't know if she did it.
I don't know.
And it was because somebody at Wyatt's school was like, was it Wyatt's? Somebody from Wyatt's school was picking on him?
I don't know if he's picking on him, but he was getting his money somehow.
Okay. Which is also known as like a bully, right?
Yeah.
Now, on January 5th, 2018, there's a search for characteristics of cheating women. Did you do that search?
No.
Okay. Do you know who did that search?
No.
You have no idea.
No.
And just around that same date, there's a search for what did ancient cultures do to infidelity? Did you do that search?
No.
Again, you have no idea who did that search.
No.
There's a search on here, that same date, 16 facts about cheating women. Did you do that search?
No.
And right around that time, did ancient cultures kill adulterers? Did you do that one?
No.
Now, let's see, a couple days later, there's search for thrill of the kill. Do you remember that one?
Yes.
And looks like there's a few visited sites, and then after, in that same bunch, there's search for thrill of the hunt. So did you do that one too?
Yes.
And then go one more, and it's actually typed in, once you hunt man, will you always
Which
feel
is a
the thirst?
book.
Did you write that too?
Yes.
Now, yesterday, your attorney asked you about this series of searches that talks about being the biological father of their children. You recall that?
DNA.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
DNA. He asked you some questions
Yes.
about that. And actually, the first search of that bunch is how to make sure your kids are yours, right?
If that's what it says.
And then then after that, it's biological father, things like that. That's what your attorney showed you yesterday. Does that kind of, you remember those questions?
Yes.
So you don't remember doing those searches either?
No.
You didn't do them?
No.
No. When do you learn about when do you suspect Amy's having an affair with Jerry? Or you're worried about their relationship being more than just business?
When I thought it was odd about Jerry was mid-July.
Okay. Now, you've heard testimony from Jerry that that he did have an affair with Amy.
Yes.
And you were probably pretty shocked to hear that when you heard about that eventually.
Yes.
And you heard testimony that affair started in May 2018, right?
That's what I heard.
That's what you heard.
He said June, so.
And on May 10th, 2018, there's a search for what happens to cheaters in history. Did you do that search?
No.
How about the search right after that? Once a cheater, always a cheater. Did you do that search?
No.
And right after that, typed in what happened to cheating spouses in historic Aztec tribe. Do you remember that one?
No.
And right after that, killing unfaithful women. Did you do that search?
No.
And the last one of that bunch is a visited site. Punishment is 18 months for killing cheating wife. Did you do that one?
No.
Do you know who did it?
No.
Now, yesterday you did talk about, you remember the searches on your iPad about swimming and buoyancy.
Yes.
So you remember that you're out by, and I apologize, I think you called it creek. Is that the right wording? Or is
We
it
were in the pond.
the pond? And that's the pond that you guys built on your farm.
Yes.
And that you and the kids are out swimming, and it kind of comes up as a joke, like about people drowning.
No,
Okay, what? I'm sorry. What? Can you just tell me briefly about how that came about?
we were all swimming in the pond. I sink like a rock. The boys were floating, and they were going amongst themselves, who floats better? And I made the comment that some people don't float as good as others.
Okay, so then who actually physically typed in, are some people less buoyant than others?
I did.
You did. And then after that, you visited some sites, and then including something about relax and swim buoyancy. Does that sound about
The
right?
boys and I were looking at that, yes.
So you're looking with, and so this says here July 13, 2018. So you're looking with, are you with Wyatt and Tristan? I apologize. Are you with both of them?
I think I was with both the boys, yes.
Were you with Taylor too?
Taylor might have been there too at home.
So at this time, Tristan's 13, Taylor is 10 or 11,
She'd have been 11,
and then Wyatt would have been how old?
8.
So you're with your 8-year-old, your 10 and 11-year-old, and your 13-year-old, and you're looking up buoyancy and people sinking and swimming.
Actually, Tristan would have been 12.
Oh, sorry, 12. That's when you're, so that's, are you guys searching this out when you're by the pond, or is it when you're back home?
We got back home.
Now, in July 21st, 2018, there's some searches for, can my husband read my deleted texts online? Did you do that search?
No,
So, and I know there's some other ones around there about text messages on phone and stuff like that. You didn't do those.
no.
Now, you confront Amy about the affair and Jerry about the affair at the end of June, right?
No.
I'm sorry, July. I apologize. At the end of July. Does that sound
I
about right?
asked Amy, she was texting a lot one day, and I asked her, well, who are you texting?
And does she tell you Jerry?
No.
But you actually at some point do look at some phone bills,
Yes.
and you see that there's a lot of text messages between them.
Yes.
And then that's when you say something to Jerry
Yes.
and you say something to Amy.
Yes.
But you're like you told us, you're totally satisfied after that conversation.
I was a little unsure yet.
So you're a little bit unsure, and then a month later, you hear that there's rumors going around, right?
After I called Jerry, I talked with Eileen, and then I called his wife.
Right.
A couple days later, I put it to rest.
You put it to rest. And then about a month later, it might not be a full month, but sometime in August, you hear that there's rumors out there.
Amy told me there's some rumors.
And you didn't believe them. Did you?
No, we talked about it, and I asked where would that have started?
And so then you talked about it, and again, you felt satisfied, you moved on.
Yes.
Now, on August 9th, 2018, there's some Google searches for how long can you survive without food. Did you do that search?
Yes.
And same group searched for how long you can survive without water. You did that one too?
Amy and I did.
Okay, and searched for what lost in extreme cold and no fire, which is best way to survive. Was that you or Amy?
It was either one or the other. We were helping Taylor.
Okay. Searched for heat stroke symptoms in that same
Yes.
group. Then you went to some websites and then searched for proper way to treat heat stroke.
Yes.
Then a few minutes later, correct treatment for 2nd and 3rd degree burns.
Yes.
And keep going. What to do with a large open chest wound.
Yes.
That was either one of you. You can't remember. Right.
Yes.
And then the last one in that kind of group is skin cold, clammy, pale, pulse, rapid, shallow breathing.
Yes.
And you guys were doing that because you were helping Taylor with some type of project. Is that right?
She was taking her hunter's safety course.
Okay. So these are all things that came up then.
There was questions on the test.
And so, and where did you take that course at?
Online.
So you do, or it was either you or Amy helping. Well, you were both helping her.
Yes.
Now, let's talk about November 6th, 2018. So that's the day of Amy's procedure, right?
Yes.
And this is a somewhat simple procedure, right? What you knew of it. I know you don't know that much.
Yes.
So you took Amy there and brought her back.
We voted. We went to the hospital.
Okay.
Hey,
And you remember that day, Taylor was asking you some questions about Amy
Do you
surgery?
guys think we should pause and
asking all sorts of
discuss?
questions.
Okay.
Or do you want to
And
wait
is
till
she
the
asking
very
you or
end?
Amy or both of you?
How much is left?
She's asking me. 'cause Amy was, I think,
Oh
in the bedroom.
crap.
Amy was in the bedroom, and so she's
Okay, we're at 110.
and even I mean, Amy came home and she appeared to be
37
okay,
and there's
right?
134
Yes.
And
22.
the kids were they were
So
able
we
to
got like
talk to her,
24
right?
minutes.
Like she's
Well,
probably laying hanging
There's
out in
cross
bed,
still,
but
so
she's
there's
not like
a
not
redirect.
available for them to talk with her.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
Yes.
and also
And Amy's
they
both an RN and a medic,
take a break
right?
so she can set up.
Registered nurse, and she was
Yes.
a medic at different times
The
for
audio.
the Delaware
Oh, okay.
Fire Department or
But I
Okay.
definitely want to discuss before
and
that.
it's your testimony
Okay.
that Taylor asks you about Amy's surgery.
Yes.
And what did you know about Amy's surgery? You knew it was for like her lady parts. Would that be fair to say?
Sure. Yes.
Did you know what it was called?
DNC or something like that.
Okay. And did you know, did Amy at all explain the procedure to you?
Not really.
Okay. So you knew she wasn't. So who actually types in organs in the body? Is that you or is that Taylor?
I think I did.
So Taylor asks you about Amy's surgery, right?
Yes.
And you tell her it's a DNC. I don't really know. Or is it, what do you say to her? Do you remember?
I said it was mommy had a procedure done. They had to knock her out.
And
And
Amy never indicated to you that any of her organs, she wasn't having surgery on any of her organs, was she?
no,
But when Taylor asks you about it, you decide to search for organs in the body, right?
she was asking a lot of questions.
So, but she was asking you questions about Amy's surgery
Yes.
that had nothing to do with organs of the body.
Yes.
But you wanted to show her a picture.
She asked if they had monitors on her. She asked, what did they do? Did they cut her here? Did they cut her there?
Okay, so
All
then
sorts of stuff.
you didn't search like pictures of the body or anything else. You searched organs of the body, right?
Yes.
And 4 days later, your wife's organs are impaled with a corn rake.
Yes.
Very curious if I search
After
organs
this
of the body,
happened
if
on
it's going to
November
even tell me
10th,
about the liver and the
2018,
lung, and I should
You
puncture
weren't
them to
arrested
get
for almost 3.5 months,
anything done.
correct?
Yes.
I'm kind
And
of curious
then,
about that
obviously,
myself.
The kids are staying with you. You're
I
taking care of them.
want to get
Yes.
a closer
I know there's
look
a
at
period
these.
of time that you
I
actually
want
stayed with
to
your parents with the
Google
kids,
the
right?
actual
Yes.
thing
But
he Googled
obviously,
so
but
I
you're at
can
that
see.
point, you
You
and
know
your
what I
family
mean?
and Amy's family is all they have because Amy's gone.
Yes.
And every day you're picking them up from school, taking care of them with the help of your family. I know your family, correct?
Yes.
Judge, can I just have a 5-minute break? I just need to connect the speaker and I just want to make sure because I just have a few more questions.
Yeah, we can take a real short break. and give the jurors
Okay,
a
here
chance
we
to use
go.
the restroom.
All right, hold on.
Folks,
Just give me a
remember the
second.
admonition. We'll keep this short. Report back to the jury room in 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah, okay, Judge.
Okay, you're gonna have
Okay.
to put it on normal speed for this next one,
Okay.
also.
Okay.
FYI,
Okay.
and maybe closed captioning.
Okay.
Okay, now, first thing I want you to explain is why it's not leading. I don't understand.
Okay. Because
Yeah, she's 100% right. I'm just not used to her actually being the one doing cross examinations. So she's been doing direct the whole time. I was like, what the heck is going on?
okay, so the reason it's not leading on cross-examination is because a cross-examination is to ask questions on the testimony already given. So in order to do that, you would have to be you would be reading back, not literally but figuratively, what the person testified to. So in that sense, the question on its face would then be leading, which how do you question somebody's testimony that they've already given on direct and not lead? You can't.
Okay.
So that's why it's not leading. Oh, thank you, Amy. You're so sweet. You don't have to, babe. You're always so sweet. How's that baby doing?
I love that she's apologizing for sporadic comments. Like that's not what we're all doing that, Amy.
Right, Amy. Like, babe, hello.
I can't even tell you how many comments I made while I was muted. just because I needed to make the comment but didn't want to interrupt.
I know. I was over here too. I typed in something so I could remember it. I think
So,
that
that's
his
why.
search for punishment for killing cheating wife is how long is kind of
But it's almost a year prior.
Mm-hmm.
Still, that's a crazy search to come up.
But what about her searching it? Like, she's obviously worried that he's going to do something.
So she could say, if you kill me, you're going to get this much time.
The other
What
issue
if
I
it
have
was
with that
the
search, honestly,
mother-in-law?
she wasn't having an affair at that time, supposedly.
Mm-mm.
They were together and fine. She didn't start the affair until, spring of 2018.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, her and Jerry were just, for lack of a better word, I mean, they were, as affairs go, this was relatively new. It's not like it was a long-term affair over years, you know what I mean? They had
Yeah.
just sort of started.
Well, I wish I knew if they were into true crime and stuff, because then that search would make total sense.
They are, babe, they've said that what they watched.
Well, yeah, but it's like Aztec stuff.
Yeah, well, that's what they watch, babe. They watch like the History Channel. They don't watch ID. They don't watch Oxygen. They clearly don't watch The Ward, or we would not be in this situation. Neither one of them would be in this situation, period.
Well, the problem is I don't think the ward was around during the 2018 murder. So
It sure wasn't. I sure wasn't. Think of all
Yeah.
the help I could be to the up
no
and comings.
kidding. No kidding. Maybe you can help on the appeal.
Maybe I can. May not.
Yeah,
Not
the
if
first
they're-
You did get that call from Iowa.
I did.
What?
I did. I got a call from Iowa and I didn't answer it but they didn't leave a voice message. And usually when it's like solicitors or spam calls, I have the spam thingy, whatever, on the phone,
Yeah.
and it wasn't spam, but it is I did look up the number, and it's from, I think, was it from a cell phone? I feel like it was from a cell phone. I should have called it back and been like, can I help you? Maybe I can't. Maybe I still will.
I'm like, well, maybe it's like the attorneys are like, we need you.
I call every number back.
This
I
is-
never
Oh,
answer
thank
it
you,
at the time.
Amy. Or Heather, whatever.
This
Sorry,
is
I'm
your
reading this
mission.
comment.
If
Thank
you
you.
wish to accept it, these instructions will explode in
Yeah.
5.
Don't record me either, because Florida's a two-party consent state.
So, okay.
Thank
so
you, Heather, sweetie. You're so sweet.
Tristan would have been, at the time those searches were happening, 12-ish, 12,
Mhm.
13. So at 6th, 7th grade. Trying to think, were they
Mhm.
in 6th, 7th grade? You learned about Aztecs,
Okay,
and he knows his mom
so
cheated.
yeah, that does make sense. I feel like,
He's probably, what would the Aztecs have done to my mom?
in
But
6th or
wasn't
7th grade, I think I was learning world geography. So
Yeah, I
that
like
probably
to ask
would
my
have been
kids.
included too. I know for sure in 5th grade and 6th grade, we did talk about the Civil War, but I was in two different places. So it's kind of an interesting deal, depending on where you live, what you learn the Civil War is about, but we won't talk about that. That's not for this, but anyway.
I have a hard time putting a lot of credibility on Google searches just because I know what I search.
Well, the problem with the searches for me is this. This iPad was not exclusively Todd's. And
It
it's
wasn't
already
even on the property.
it's already been It's already been established that other people at various times had access to it. And
Mhm.
so if they had really wanted to pin down these searches, they knew that Amy was at the hospital visiting various relatives, right? So wouldn't you have maybe gone to the hospital and see what their procedure is, as far as, because it sounds to me like they were up on a serious floor. not a regular floor, like an ICU somewhere like in that vicinity. And they do keep notes. You know, when my oldest son was in the hospital after he was born, when he was in the NICU, do you know that the nurses notated every single time I visited and how long I visited and anybody else that visited? So if they really wanted to pin those times down, they could have requested the nurses, because the nurses would have it, their notes. They will say they will say when people visited.
But
They will make a
I
note
don't
of
know
it.
about how Iowa is, but out here, they scan your ID and your picture goes on your little visitors thing. So I mean, like you're logged in every time you walk in and out of a hospital.
Yes,
Oh, not
exactly.
here.
Maybe not out as much as in, but
Mhm.
still in.
But there's also, I mean, there were ways they could have gone about at least attempting, right,
Right.
to solidify who did the searches, or
Yep.
at
And then
least
they also have cameras on the property, even though they didn't work all the time. They would
right,
have been able to utilize those to see, does Todd, do you see Todd out there? Or is everybody in the house at the same time? Is
exactly,
he walking outside? Does he have the iPad? You know what I mean?
exactly.
I don't know. They're just, yeah, it's just
Or they
shoddy.
could have pulled the well, I mean, they could have, what towers were they bouncing around off of? Is the tower different when it's in the house versus when it's outside by the field? Is one close, is, you know what I'm saying? If it's
Well, where's our
across,
Google expert? Get
right,
him back on the
exactly.
stand.
Where is he? Exactly. There were you're never going to be able to, for 1000% certainty, uh know that it's easier to eliminate somebody from doing the searches than to make somebody be there. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's easier to say, okay, well, if the searches happen between 8 a.m. and 3:30 p.m. and the school hours are, 7:30 to 3, okay, obviously that rules out the kids and they get home at 3:30, right?
They were homeschooled.
Right. Well, all of them were. I thought they were in school.
I thought all
I
of them
thought,
were homeschooled, and he put them in school after Amy died, so they'd have
I think he kept
routine.
them in school.
Yeah,
I think there was talk
yeah, they
about
were in school because
Tristan.
he said he sent them back to school after she died to keep them on a regular schedule.
yeah, I
I
think
thought that
Tristan
was
is
the
the
whole
only
back to
one.
school was because they were homeschooled, and
No,
so
I
he sent
think
them back to school.
No, I
No,
think
okay.
that was just Tristan. I think Tristan is the only one that they were going to homeschool. But
Oh, okay.
what I'm saying is that there are things that can be done to eliminate somebody from being the person that's searched. It's
Oh, for
very
sure.
difficult to make it somebody. You know what I'm saying? And they could have done that.
Nobody did anything, so it doesn't. Yeah,
Uh-uh.
that's kind of the point.
They
Nobody even
only
tried to
looked at
eliminate.
evidence that pointed to Todd.
I agree.
Right.
I agree.
Without looking. Because if they had looked into some of those Google searches, they would have found what Arshmita found, which was that some of those were books that had nothing to do about, like, it wasn't even true crime related. They were a couple of them were military.
Yep.
But like the searches of like staying, like all those ones that they questioned about, like staying warm and all that other crap for the studying of the test. In between all of those searches, it says the Hunter's Ed course study.
Right.
So like anybody with two brain cells to rub together would see that that's what they're looking. I don't know. This lady is driving me nuts, though. She gets more stuff wrong. Yeah, like I don't know. She just keeps messing up little things, and he's having to correct her. And I don't know if that's like on purpose.
It is on purpose. It is on purpose. She's not messing these things up. She knows exactly what she's doing. She's trying to trip him up by coming across as she doesn't know what she's talking about, as if he has her at the disadvantage. It's a game. She knows exactly what she's doing. She's not messed up at all.
I still don't like her.
I mean,
she's still irritating.
She's not going to be my pal either. She's definitely not invited to the ward's annual slumber party. No, ma'am.
Nope.
Nope. She's not our. Yeah, Amy, you never have to worry about that, babe. Just whatever your little sweetie types, I don't care. Don't you worry about it. Alice stands
Have
on my.
have you ever been in a private chat with me? You're gonna get little thumbs up. I'm gonna call you randomly. I'm gonna like, you never know what you're gonna get with my. And I don't even have anyone to blame but me.
I know. Okay, I was thinking about what you just said too, Shamina. Now, I will say this. Personality wise, she's getting on my nerves. This is true. But I've watched her as she's questioning him. And if you'll notice from the beginning of his testimony, you could tell that he was very well prepped. And the reason you could tell is because when she would ask an answer and ask a question, he would not only let her finish the question, but before I sped it up a little bit, there's a pause in between her finishing the question and him answering the question. That is well prepped, and also goes to, I mean, there might be some ineffective assistance of count, but not really. I think they did the best they could with what they had, and there's more they could have done. Obviously, there's always more they could do, but as you could see, he was fairly confident in the beginning of his testimony, right? It was a new day. He had, he was answering the questions. He was paying attention. She wasn't getting him tripped up. This, what she did, her stumbling around, if you watched, he then started stumbling around. Then she did get him to concede to some things that he probably wouldn't have conceded to before. It's a disarming mechanism, making him feel that he's in control. She actually did it really well.
Yeah, I think she's good.
What do you think that he conceded to that he wouldn't have?
Well, for one, he said in the beginning of the questions that he hadn't been in the red shed for months and months, and he didn't know what all was in there. And then he admitted that he put the corn rake in there.
That's not going
in October.
Though. He said he put it inside the door. Like, you would have to go down like that little path, right? I don't really consider that going in. That's like the tip.
Come on, Shamita. Stop fucking with me and Teresa.
Like, it doesn't count.
Yeah, it doesn't count.
Yeah, but he knew the pet carrier was in there. They hadn't moved any equipment out of there in months and months and months, and they didn't need to protect the cats.
Well, no, because the one cat got killed. So they weren't protecting the cats for sure.
No.
And I don't, the whole 10-pound, 15-pound thing, that's ridiculous to me.
Yeah, I don't think that's a big, huge deal. But there is one thing that I commented on now. I can't remember what it was.
Like, they act like there's these, like, I think of it as, like, how many single moms are out there. And, like, with me, I had a C-section, too. So, you think I wasn't lifting more than 10 pounds afterwards? Like, I know that they say that you should.
My third born was almost 10 pounds himself.
Right? Like, how do they think, like, what, someone's just not going to lift their baby in the car seat for 6 weeks? Like,
yeah, I still don't think that was a big deal. And I don't even think it really matters because of the fact that she never even got to the carrier anyway.
Exactly.
And nobody testified that she would have had to.
Now I got to find what I
get it. You know what I mean? Like, they both said, if you can't do it, that's fine.
Right.
But he didn't tell the cops they said that. That wasn't part of his initial statement.
And this is why the lawyers tell you don't talk to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, the cops, if you listen to what the cops tell you, they tell you not to talk to them. They tell you straight out in the very beginning, anything you say can and will be used against you. If that isn't an STFU warning, I don't know what is. They literally tell you.
Yeah, the only thing is if this is an accident, if this is truly just an accident, then they're talking to him about like what happened. Holy crap, there was this big accident. I could see that if he was like, all right, I'm not going to talk to you without my attorney, then that would have probably been like, whoa, red flags. You know what I mean? Like, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
What do you need an attorney for? I could see that. Like somebody's shot next door and the cops come and want to talk to me. I'm like, I'm getting my lawyer. You know what I mean? Like, because obviously somebody was shot.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
I'm trying
But I'm
to.
just saying, like, it's a freak accident on a farm. Like, he's probably like, holy shit. Like, I don't like.
Oh, I see I remember what it was. So on direct testimony, he said that he had no choice but to take the rake out of her back. If he hadn't taken the rake out of her back, he wasn't getting her out of that shed.
Mhm.
The rake had to come out. But
Yeah, it was bumping into the
on cross
chemical bins.
examination, he said that he's a doer, that he wanted to get her help. No mention of he also said that he wrestled with it on cross or on direct. He did say I kind of had to move around and get it out. I understand why she asked what she asked afterwards. So if you look at that fork, the corn rake, it has, when you going in is one thing, okay, because you've made the hole, right? But pulling something back out after you have gotten in between the ribs, you have it's a little bit more difficult to get out. And I think that was her what she was trying to get him. What they're trying to do, or she is trying to do, is chip away at tiny inconsistencies, because human nature says if somebody will lie about some one little thing, what else are they lying about? They're liars. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's why they take little, just chip away, so that it makes him appear as if he is changing up his story, which is fancy for lying. That's what she's trying to do. I just don't think at this point, even now, that she has, or the prosecution has, put that corn rake in his hands and his hands alone. And that's the truth.
I agree.
Like, that's just sharp.
Yeah, but I mean, it is sharp, but okay, I'll give you an example, which is not the best example I can give you without telling, I'm not going to advocate for anybody to use something sharp on something living. But you've carved a pumpkin before, right, Allie?
Yes.
Okay. So
I like the pause and then
I'm
the answer.
muted.
She
for a
was
minute.
prepped really well for this interview right now.
Did you prep her? Did you prep
I
her,
did. I
Grace?
prepped
I
it.
felt like you
She's gonna
did.
ask you about some pumpkins. Just
Okay.
take a break and then say yes.
So you know that when you make the first cut around a pumpkin, right? You're cutting the top off, right? It goes in easy, but sometimes, depending on how you pull it out, sometimes it catches, depending on the kind of knife you use. If it's not a completely very, very sharp, if it has any what's the word? Defects in it, right?
Yeah, but
then
that's like usually you use something that's like serrated though to get caught.
right, but this is
Right?
okay. This is a fork, or a corn rake. Okay, it is intended to, I'm assuming, rake something pertaining to corn, nothing with flesh, right? So it's not intended to pierce skin, but when you pierce tissue, it's not clean. When it comes back out, the tissue is stuck to the end of whatever the hell has gone through you. You see what I mean? So however many times went all the way through her, right, to pierce the lung, to pierce the liver, they're going to have the flesh of everything they went through prior to that getting to it. Okay. So then you have to pull that out with crap stuck to it. Does that make sense? Doesn't
Mhm.
go in as easy as it does to come out.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Gotcha.
And the thing about calling 911, I think about what my husband would do if it was me. Because he's a doer too. I feel like he would do the same thing. Like, just try to get me in the truck and get me there as fast, like, not taking time to call 911. I don't think that's that weird.
I don't think
To
it's that weird.
me, yeah.
I think the fact that he tried to get her help at all in the first place sort of
Because I
Like,
can
if he
see
wanted her
Brad
dead,
just,
why would he send them there? Like, he
right.
could have
If
just
you
waited.
if you wanted somebody to be unalive and that was your intention, why would you then seek aid? You know, a lot of people who do commit the act of unaliving other human beings, when they call 911, typically the person is already unalived.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
right. I
You
can
know,
just see Brad trying to just throw me in the truck and go as fast as he
But-
can because he thinks he can drive faster than a NASCAR driver.
Exactly. And like, I try to remember, okay, this guy lives in small little town. He's clearly a farmer, comes from generations of farmers. So, like, his cell phone in 2018 didn't even have internet on it. So, and he didn't go to schooling past high school. So I'm trying to think about, like, okay, what does this guy know, what he doesn't know, and if he's helping his kids with these hunting courses and they're going over safety. To me, I feel like he should know not to pull something out, but it is reasonable to think that maybe he doesn't know
Or
because
I
he
don't
kind of
I
seems
don't think he
sheltered.
thought about it because the only way he could get her out was to pull it out.
Yeah, like,
that's the problem, is that when you're in this situation, this
You
person
just
is on
panicked.
trial. We don't know him, right? This is our only encounter with him at all. And it's very, very difficult to get into somebody's mind and try to figure out what was going through their mind when this happened. You know, it's possible that a lot of things were occurring at the same time. It's possible that he did know from the courses that he shouldn't do that. However,
do you think, like, if she was face down, do you think he knew that it was sticking through?
it's
I
very
don't know.
difficult for me to say because I can't really picture his description, which is all we have, which is unfortunate, right? His description is so vague and general that it's difficult for me to have an accurate and clear picture of what it is that he is trying to convey as to how she was actually laying. But I don't think she was laying like Shanann, though, babe. I don't.
No.
But I have a couple
No.
of issues with the pulling out of the corn rake, though, because let's just say, and I'm not a nurse and I have not looked up organs of the body, but let's just say he does call 911 and they come out there and she's unresponsive, right? They
Mhm.
have to do CPR. You can't transport a dead body. So if somebody's dead, you don't put them in an ambulance. They have to have a pulse.
Right.
So how are they going to do it any
Get her out.
differently? They
Yeah.
have to take it out.
Right, but they would have taken it out, and then they would have
Giving
probably
her a shot at epi.
no, honey, no.
What I'm saying is,
No,
like,
the last thing that you want to do is cause the heart to pump harder and faster, because what's the heart pumping?
Blood.
Yeah, but
Right.
yeah, I
So you
guess.
don't want to speed up the pumping of the process. So it's
Well, I was
pumping
thinking more
blood.
like make up for what you're losing.
No, epinephrine is not going to make up for transfusion would, but no. But they would also, they would probably take it out or, and know that, and then apply pressure, right? So
Well, yeah,
that,
but do we know that they didn't apply pressure?
Well,
Well,
he
he was
just,
just laying on the sun.
yeah, he
On
just
her
laid
back.
him across.
yeah, on her
So
back.
they're applying pressure.
One could argue.
One could. No, I don't know. I just think I don't know. I'm not a. I have no.
Or it's possible
So I'm
that
just
they
saying
would have
things
gotten
like,
out there with tools and cut the handle of the rake and left the rake in her till they could get her to the hospital.
but she didn't. She
Actually-
wasn't responsive, so they aren't gonna. They can't take her. She didn't have a. If she didn't have a pulse, they can't take her. They'd have to call a coroner.
Yeah, but she must have had a pulse, babe, because they performed CPR on her at the truck, but while waiting for the ambulance, and they
I
put
wonder
her
what
in
time
the
they called it.
ambulance.
Like, that's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Who called it?
It sounds like they called it about 30 to 35 minutes after she arrived at the hospital. She wasn't a DOA because they put in a chest tube. They worked on her.
Right, but that's what I'm saying is that's because of the CPR. If she had laid there for the 15, 20 minutes it took an ambulance to get out there and had the rake in her, and then they have to secure the rake and they have to remove all the rake. I'm just thinking, like, logically, I could see why somebody would be like, let's just go, like, now, go.
No, I get
Me
it too.
too.
I get it too. What I'm saying is he could have the knowledge that you're not supposed to pull something out, right? But
I
that's
think
a
that he would
different
too.
knowledge than when you're actually looking at it happening to your wife in that moment.
Agreed.
Meaning that goes right out the window and you think, I'm going to get, I'm going to pull this out of her. This is the problem. Let me fix it.
Well, like, I always
Right.
think that, like, if like something was going on with my kids, or like if like when I don't know why I think these weird things, but like somebody was being electrocuted, I could see myself being the one to grab them
And electrocuting yourself
and
too.
electrocuting myself. Yeah, totally.
Mhm.
I think this about myself all the time because I know better, but I'm like, my instinct would be to go save whoever it is.
Yes.
Right.
Which
I
is
don't know.
why,
I see both
Yeah.
ways. I see that, of course, obviously, he should have called 911. He should have stayed there.
right.
But it's easy to say stuff in hindsight,
Mhm.
but when it's happening, you just panic. I mean, I do dumb stuff every
I don't-
day, and I'm not even in panic mode.
I
But
don't
that's
think
the thing is, like, why was he panicking
I don't
if
think
he was trying to kill her?
exactly. And I don't think, here's the thing. I don't think what he was doing would be considered panicking. If he were panicking would make you do nothing. Panic mode usually makes you freeze and do nothing. You know what I'm saying? But I think what he was doing was he recognized that she needed help. Now, when he uses the term unresponsive, he's not a nurse, okay? And he has no medical training.
But she was.
But she was not responding, so he couldn't ask her for help. He couldn't.
No, but I'm
ask
just
her-
saying, like, that means he could know the terminology.
Well, I don't think.
But if
what
she's a
my
nurse,
but my point
then
is, let
she
me finish.
probably handled all that stuff.
Right, but let me finish my point. We
We
don't
can't
know.
do that, Jen.
We don't know what he think. We don't know what unresponsive means to him. If you're asking him if she's unresponsive, does he think that unresponsive means that she's knocked out and not answering questions? She can't respond to your question? Because the layman's unresponsive meaning
that's what I
is
would think.
very different than the medical term for unresponsive. Do you see what I'm saying? And so
I
when
got
they're
you.
asking him that question, we don't know really what was going on because we don't know. I mean, obviously she must not have, if she was breathing, which I doubt very much, but her her lung was punctured. So that CPR was only filling one lung because the other lung was probably filling with blood, which is why they or it was collapsed, which is why they did the chest tube to get it out, to get it to inflate again. So I think I will say this. The part that I don't believe is that everything was going great in their relationship. I don't think that it was going great in their relationship for him, and I don't think that it was going great in their relationship for her.
Well,
And
obviously.
I'm not blaming anybody. But I
Right.
don't think it was much better with Jerry either, if I'm being 100.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I think
She
Jerry was
emailed
about
him.
over it.
Yeah, she emailed him like, "Oh, I got to do this," and like clearly not happy about it. And he responds, "Nice."
Nice. Nice. Good job.
and I'm kind
Might
of
as
Well,
well
I
just give
think
her a thumbs up.
probably he was in for the sex, and then she was bleeding so much that they couldn't even be having sex. So he was like, "I'm over this."
well, I actually think that Jerry was measured in his responses to the emails because Todd had already busted him the one time with the texts. So perhaps he was careful about the words that he chose that might be later shared publicly, not so much in a trial, but I don't know if Todd, the last thing Jerry wanted was Todd be calling his wife again.
Right.
So it's
But he
possible.
said they did.
Interesting to see their other correspondence, though, like how they did talk to each other.
It would be before they got caught.
Yeah, because Jerry said they talked about a future together. Which
Yeah.
But then he
obviously,
wanted to
that's why
pull
she was
down.
looking up rings and dresses and.
Yeah. All right, let me fix this so it's on regular speed.
All right. So the chat's had some good points. I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot is I think on the side of Todd is guilty. If I had to
Okay.
guess where they voted in the poll, that's what I would say.
Okay. Yes. Take the poll down, and then after this, put a new.
Hold on.
poll
What's the
up.
poll at right now?
I have to look.
55 innocent, 45 guilty.
Okay. Take it down, and after this, put a new one up.
Okay.
55 innocent, 45 guilty. Okay.
Oh, we tipped the scales a little bit.
Yeah. Let's see if this changes people.
And see, that's the thing is, do I know if he is innocent? No. But have they proven to me that it was him? No.
Yeah. 45 to 55 is a hung jury.
You only need one. This is this is what makes it difficult when you're discussing true crime, because as a juror, right, you're only allowed to weigh the evidence that's been presented to you. And I'll give you a prime example. Casey Anthony. Okay. The truth of the matter is, I think Casey Anthony is a million, 11 billion, 50, 1100% guilty.
Yep. It's a real number now. Yep.
Yes, it is. However, I do understand by the way that the jury was instructed and the charges that they were allowed to consider why they found why they found her innocent the way that they did. Her being innocent is a legal innocence. Okay. It's not a moral innocence. And I think that had that prosecutor allowed for them to consider lesser charges, I think that I don't think she would be free right now. I think she would be in prison, but they didn't. And that's what happens. So, what I can say right now is, as a juror, the state has not proven their point beyond a reasonable doubt. They have not proven their case. So
I agree.
I feel awful for the jury. Do you think that's the verdict they wanted to give in the Casey Anthony trial? Absolutely not. I guarantee you they went in trying to do their job. They wanted to do their job. And I do believe that they did think that Casey Anthony was guilty. However, they were only allowed to find her guilty of first-degree murder.
Premeditated murder. Yep.
They weren't allowed to do anything else. And that's the problem.
Have they ever done like an interview?
A couple of them have done like some interviews, and most of them that I've read, this case is like near and dear to me. name my daughter after Kaylee Anthony. So, um,
I didn't know that.
yeah, my daughter's name's Kaylee because of Kaylee Marie Anthony.
I didn't know that. That's so sweet.
Not the same middle name, just the Kaylee part.
Right.
But yeah, true crime junkie problem. But
You didn't give her you didn't give her Kaylee's whole her government
Kaylee
name. That would,
Marie Anthony Stephens. No, I didn't do
yeah,
that.
that would have been really weird. I would have been like,
No,
now
no,
Teresa, listen, I
no,
love
just
you
the
and
Kaylee
everything,
part.
but that's a little over the line for me.
You're like, all right, disconnected. But they did, and a couple of them basically said that they did not find her innocent, and that's what they wanted to make sure was very clear because the public was very outraged.
Mhm.
They did not find her innocent. They found her not guilty of first-degree murder.
Correct.
So, and I get that, I get it, but I still have a problem with it.
I do too. I don't think it was justice at all for
Well,
Kayla.
that whole case is a totally separate issue, but that's a case, in my opinion, where the expert testimony actually hurt the case
Yes.
because the jurors did not understand what was being said to them,
Yes.
and it was just over their head, and I think they stopped even paying attention because they didn't understand it. But if they'd actually listened and understood what the expert testimony was,
Mhm.
I think she would have been found guilty of first-degree murder.
I
So
do
that's
too.
where I have an issue on that they could have found her guilty on that, but I
They
think
could
that
have asked more questions. Maybe.
I still think that it was too much education thrown at them, and they weren't
Correct.
just regular old folk. They weren't there to be educated on blowflies, you know.
Well, right. Exactly. And the thing is that some of the testing that they were doing was newer, and nobody had, unless you follow true crime and you follow cases like this, right? Then you might be somewhat familiar. But
Right.
for these people, that's not what that was. And it's sort of like, um, okay, I'll give you another good example with the Nicholas Godejohn trial. Okay. When his psychologist took the stand, he was very dry, he was very clinical, but when the prosecutors, um, psychologist who did the same exact testing and actually had the same exact findings as the defenses, he was much better at getting it across to the jury, and he was far more personable. And the jury thought that the defense was trying to say that Nicholas Godejohn, because he's on the spectrum, he didn't understand right from wrong, which was never what the defense was trying to prove. What they were saying is that the element of premeditation that Nicholas doesn't possess due to his being on the
Mm,
spectrum, the mental capacity to actually form all of the requirements of premeditation because he doesn't reason things out the same way. That's
ah,
what they were trying to explain. I got it, but the jury didn't. And that's
that's
what
unfortunate.
it is. Okay, so let's are we ready?
Oh,
Oops. Let's hear it.
You
All
changed
right.
the speed?
Yes, ma'am, I did. Let me just check. Yep, check. Oh,
Oh,
and
and she said subtitles.
I did. Yeah, I'm doing it right now.
Okay.
Okie dokie artichokes.
I don't know if the subtitles will work, but just in case.
Okay.
there's going to be some weird applause probably at some weird times, so
Maybe some Pokemon thrown in here and there.
maybe.
We'll see. Can y'all hear this? Because I can't.
Nobody was talking.
It looked like they
Ms.
were
Hughes, go ahead.
talking. Sorry. Just wanted to make sure.
Now, Todd, I just want to talk a little bit more about a few more things. So when you're at, when you call 911 on November 10th, 2018, and you pull over because 911 tells you to, right?
Yes.
And you pull over and they tell you to get Amy out of the car.
No.
Or I'm sorry, to lay her flat
Yeah,
because they want you to be able to do CPR. You remember that? Because
Yeah.
eventually you
Yep.
do some CPR on her. Is that
Yes.
right? And just so that we can, where we all understand, where is it that you perform the CPR on Amy?
I started in the truck.
In the truck. And are you in the truck until Luke Thompson arrives?
I'm standing.
Or I'm sorry, you're like leaning inside the truck. Would that be fair to say?
Yes.
And is she seated in the passenger seat with the seat down?
Yes.
Or, okay. So when they tell you to do chest compressions, half of your body's in the car and that's what you're doing. You're using your mouth and your hands to do that.
I did not use my mouth.
Oh, I'm sorry. So you're just pressing. Where's Tristan at that point?
I told him to go stand by the road to flag them down if they were coming.
So as you're doing those chest compressions, is anyone else there initially?
No.
And you're holding onto that phone and you're doing the chest compressions.
I had my shoulder holding my phone against my ear.
So at that point, the only people in the car are you and Amy, right?
Yes.
And at this point, you don't at all think that Amy's cheating on you.
No.
You confronted her, you put it to bed.
Yes.
You, even after the rumors a month later, you still didn't think she was cheating on you because she told you she wasn't. Right?
Yes.
And even in those months, I know you told some people she was really moody. She was having some issues, right?
She had a lot going on all summer.
So because she had all the stuff going on in Ankeny, right?
Yes.
She was going up there. She was visiting a lot.
She had her grandma die. Her uncle had problems.
You said in those 2 months, in September and October, she was gone about 30 days.
There was a stretch in there. Yeah.
And she would come and go, but she was gone quite a bit, right?
Yes.
And things are getting a little bit tense at home.
No.
So you're not upset at all about this?
I was needing help at home, and
Right. And
well, I guess you could call it some tension, I guess.
well, and you're
So-
calling Eileen Fuller, Amy's stepmother, around this time, right?
Yes.
And you're telling her, this is hard, right? I'm harvesting, I'm
Yeah.
taking care of the kids, and I know
Yeah.
Amy's got stuff going on, but I need some help, right?
Yes.
And thankfully you have your family close by and they're helping a lot.
Yes.
But still throughout those months where she's spending a lot of time in Ankeny, you're not worried that she's cheating, right?
No.
You know she's just dealing with her family, right?
Yes.
And would it be fair to say you almost like forgot about the whole thing with Jerry Frazier because you didn't think anything was happening?
I did not put Jerry in
And
at all.
And so on November 10th, 2018, when this happens to Amy, you're not at all suspicious that she's cheating.
That she's cheating? No.
At that point, you don't have one worry that she's cheating.
No.
And when you're actually there giving her CPR and you're giving those chest compressions, all you're thinking about is your wife, right?
Yes.
You're thinking about how you're trying to save her life.
Yes.
And you're thinking you're doing everything because I think you even say on the 911 tape, I'll do anything, right?
When they asked me to do CPR, I said I'll do whatever will help her.
And you mean that. You'll do anything at that point to help save your wife.
Yes.
And you start those chest compressions, right?
Yes.
And you heard that tape when we played it the other day, right?
Yes.
And at that point, what are you thinking when you're doing that?
Trying to get her to come back.
You're just trying to save her,
Yes.
right? Todd, while you're doing those, I know it was kind of hard to hear on that tape, but you're doing those chest compressions. How long do you think you're doing them for?
Not very long, minute or two.
And then I think it's Deputy Thompson shows up, and then
Yes,
does he take over or somebody else takes over?
he started.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time, can I publish a clip of the 911 tape?
Yes, go ahead.
And just for the record, Judge, this is State's Exhibit number 2. Now, Todd, here I'm gonna play you the part where you're doing the chest compressions, and I'm just gonna ask that you listen in between the chest compressions, okay? Now, Todd, did you just hear that whisper at the end of that?
Yes,
And what did you whisper?
I couldn't hear it.
Okay, I'm gonna play it again. Todd, do you whisper cheating whore right there?
No,
So you don't remember what you whispered?
no.
Okay, I'm gonna play another clip for you. Do you know what you whispered there?
No.
Did you hear that? So I'm gonna play that part one more time. The first clip is 6:53 of that second tape, and this second one is right at 0700. Just try to listen really closely. I just want to know if you remember what you said. Right there, do you say "go to hell, cheating whore"?
No,
So you don't hear that.
no,
You didn't hear at 6:53 cheating whore. You didn't hear that.
I didn't hear that word.
And it's right at that, after you hear a ping, you don't hear "go to hell, cheating whore."
No.
I have nothing for you, Judge.
Any redirect?
Thank you.
Todd, the state asked you if Amy wanted to quit the hospital after this first affair. Remember that question?
Yes,
Do you remember her announcing to her friends and coworkers that she was leaving the hospital?
yes.
How did she do that?
She did a Facebook announcement, and she even had a party at a bar.
Okay. When you and Tristan realized that the pet carrier wasn't up by the shop door, what did the two of you try to figure out, or what did you decide to do, I guess is the better question.
We were just talking. I wonder why it wasn't there. What she either couldn't, we were thinking that she either couldn't get it out of there or she didn't even attempt.
She didn't even go over there in the first place.
One or the other.
And I'm just going to follow some questions along, so they may jump around. There was a series of questions about where Amy was located when you first saw her in the shed.
Jen, I
Yeah.
think you could speed it back up again if you want.
Okie
We also
dokie.
asked you about
Right, because
your
we got
knowledge of
slow
the
McGraw over here.
advisability of not pulling something out of a person that's penetrated them. You remember those questions?
Yes,
Were you able to get Amy out the door with the fork stuck in her back?
there's no way.
So you didn't have a choice.
No.
You were also asked about when you last saw that fork, and you said something about on the grass, and that you moved it.
Yes,
In that shed, have you looked at all the photographs that the state took in there?
yes, I think so.
Were there any children's toys in there?
Yes,
What were there?
there was a multitude of stuffed animals and play items on the wagon.
The kids obviously played out there then,
Yes, they played a lot.
and things might get moved out of the shed that shouldn't be.
Yes,
You told the state that while in the hog barn that morning, you never went to the office. Is that correct?
after she left, I never went to the office.
Did you go through the office when you left though?
Yes,
Were you in the office when you and Tristan looked out and didn't see the pet carrier?
yes,
There also was some questions about the closest point between the hog barn and the red shed. And you tell us again what that would be.
I estimated at 150 feet or so.
And that'd be from what point on the hog barn?
The very, very southwest tip of the barn by the door that you go in and out to the very northeast corner of the red shed.
And when you say the door, that's the door going into the office of the hog barn?
Yes,
Todd, why did you do the searches on or about, I think it was July 26th, for Jerry Frazier and his wife,
I was trying to find a way to contact Christy.
Christy being his wife?
Christy was his wife. I was trying to find a way to contact her.
So if the search related to Jerry, you had Jerry's contacts.
I had Jerry's contact, but I had no way of getting her phone number.
On some of those entries, those searches that the state asked you, a few of them about thrill of the kill, thrill of the hunt man, thirst for hunt, that kind of thing. You indicated you recognize those.
Yes,
And what did they relate to?
there was a quote stated in a movie, and it was actually ended up being an Ernest Hemingway quote, and we were trying to remember what it was.
You remember what the name of the movie was?
I think it was Predators.
Todd, did you ever have any doubt about you being the biological parents of your children?
No,
Do you have any reason to search for those DNA things?
no, I have no reason to.
When the state asked you questions about you contacting Jerry and his wife in July of 2018, they said, I think the words they used was, did you confront them about the affair? Had you concluded that there was an affair?
No, I did not.
You had concerns about all those text messages.
Yes,
When you talked to Jerry, did he convince you that there was nothing going on?
yes. I mean, for the most part, yes. He was very convincing.
Todd, when you were doing those chest compressions, if I understand you correctly, you had put Amy somewhat upright in the seat of the pickup, but leaned it back as far as it would go.
Yes,
So she was in a kind of a reclining chair position.
yes,
And you were holding the phone and doing the compressions at the same time.
yes,
You knew you were on a recorded line with a 911 operator.
yes,
Do you believe that you said, whispered, cheating whore or go to hell, cheating whore while you were doing CPR?
no,
Were you frantic?
I was very excited.
Were you doing everything you could to keep her alive?
Yes.
No other questions?
Can you recross?
Just briefly, Judge. Todd, that first search about the DNA is how to tell if a child is yours, right?
If that's what it says.
And Amy gave birth to your children, right? They came out of her
Yes.
body.
Yes.
And you also, your attorney just asked you about, you didn't really think they were having an affair in May. You were just wondering what's going on. I'm sorry, in July. You're just wondering if Jerry and Amy, if there's something, they're talking too much.
They were talking too much, yes.
So you didn't really think they were having an affair.
No.
But you did text Terry Stainer. Do you think Amy's acting like she was before? Right?
If that's what I text, yeah.
And, well, you saw those texts, right? Do
I don't,
you remember seeing them the other day?
I couldn't see the screen.
Okay, but you, when you sent that text, you were referring to, is she acting like before, like having an affair, right?
Yeah.
And you called Jerry Frazier's wife. I know you called a second time to apologize, but you called that first time to see if she suspected anything.
Please be seated, everyone.
Oh no. I don't know what happened.
Hold on, let me look.
I wonder if it didn't download the whole thing.
Hold on, let me look.
Sorry.
It's all right.
Well, we got the important part.
Yeah, I think it must not have downloaded all the way because I played all of it.
Yeah, it just cut off, so it must have been my down. That's why I'm having problems downloading Tristan's too. It just stops.
Huh.
Did you
So-
put up a new poll?
I was about to.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah.
Now, when I first watched it, I was at work, and my work is very, very, very loud. So I was thinking maybe he was doing the compressions, and it was like 1, 2, 3, 4. But he only did 1, 2. But then he said she was cold. So I went around work, and I told people to say cheating whore, and she's cold. But when I wasn't at work and I listened in a quieter environment,
This seems extremely scientific.
it wasn't. I put a lot into this.
Okay.
When I listened to the full 911 call, I actually heard it better than her clips.
You hear
But she
him
just-
say, "Go to hell, cheating whore."
In the full 911, I hear it better than what she just played.
Okay, so now I have to ask Jen and Shmita, do you guys hear him say, "Go to hell, cheating whore"?
I just heard cheating whore. But I didn't hear it in that clip either. I heard it in the full 911 clip.
Yeah, you can hear it a lot better in that one.
I hear cheating whore in both. But do I hear cheating whore? Because I already knew that that's what it was said that he has said. You know what I mean? Like,
That's my problem. Because if she hadn't pointed it out to the jury, would they have heard that?
Well, this is what I'll say. Before I listened to anything on this trial, right, we were still covering the Chandler Halderson case or trial. And Mo over here.
Sorry, already
Just
in
wait.
advance. I already
Wait.
know. I already know. I'm sorry.
You're not. Don't say sorry. Don't worry. Let me finish. I promise. Okay, listen. So Mo did bring up the 911 call, and she did bring up cheating whore. That's it. Not go to hell, cheating whore. None of that. The thing is she told me about it. Okay, but she didn't play it for me. Nor did she say specifically when in the clip cheating whore was. So if I heard cheating whore, I heard cheating whore because that's what my ears heard, not because you told me about it. That's what I was trying to say. You didn't tell me enough detail about the where it would be for me to hear it. Do you know what I'm saying? I
Yeah,
heard the 911 call the day that we played it in here.
or I don't even think I said 911 call. I said, I'm not allowed to talk about this case, but cheating whore.
No,
How
we
about
talked.
how about 1, 2, 3, 4?
Cheating whore. See? But he didn't say 3, 4 because I listened again. Because I thought, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, cheating whore. It would sound the same, but he didn't ever say 3, 4. If you listen back, he only goes 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. But he even says he said she was cold. He said he went 1, 2, she's cold. I don't know why I'm pushing down like I'm giving CPR, like y'all can see me.
It helps when you're reenacting it.
Okay, Heather, to answer you, I played that portion of the trial was at regular speed.
What if we slowed it down? What if you play that
wanna
part
try
again?
to slow it down? All right,
Yeah,
let's try
see
to
what
slow
happens.
it down. All
I
right.
wonder if we could find the original one. It's so much clearer, I think. But go ahead, try that.
They played the original one in court.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's where I heard it the best.
right. That's not
Nobody
the
in
one.
chat, though, whenever we played it the first time, said anything about hearing it.
Exactly.
Exactly.
That's why I didn't say anything. I
That's
wasn't
why
going to
I
bring
didn't
it up.
either. But we talked about it after, so I went back and listened. And I actually didn't hear it the first time. And Jen said, yes, you can. So I went back and listened, and I did hear it. But that's my point. The jury wouldn't have heard it if she hadn't pointed it out.
We don't know that, though, and we can't know that is the
Nope.
problem.
But just remember I say that.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, I get it. That's probably going to be, I mean, it would make sense. I already knew that she's bringing it up, and I know that he's on appeal. So, I mean, I'm not a criminal. I can add. And I figured that that's one of the basis. But and it's a good it's a good thing for her, it's a good position to take. Hold on a second, I got to find it.
The way she ended that was just, I mean, she did a great job there. Ending it like that. I know, but like, I even had
No, she did.
chills,
She
and
did
I was
good.
like,
Okay, I think I found
and then
it.
his attorney's like, so when you were at the hospital, I was like,
So I think that was a mistake on his part. I think that the defense attorney should have immediately followed up with what she had just done,
Yes.
watched
I
it,
agree.
and then
Yes.
ended on the stuff from the hospital and the stuff from the other Google searches so that it wasn't fresh in everybody's mind. Because as a viewer, my whole thought is watching him waiting for that question, not
Right.
giving two shits about what his other answers are.
Mm-mm.
Exactly. I think so too. Thank you, Fairway Eyes.
Thank you.
But
I
so
think
I don't know how he is. Like there's so many other questions that they could have asked about Todd to get a better idea of the type of person that he was. But like I know with my husband, it could have been like if he's fiddling with something and it's not going right and it's really irritating him and pissing him off, he will call that metal piece a whore or whatever it is he's working on.
But does he call it a cheating whore? And does he tell it to go to hell? That's the real
Well,
He might tell it to go to hell.
I talked somebody that was testifying a whore the other day, and Shmita corrected me and said, "No, Mo, you don't actually know if she's a whore." I was like, "This is true."
Next time we'll just go with bitch.
But my other point is, he could have been pissed off that his son got mad and did this, and he was mad at her.
Yes, like you cheating whore. Look at what you made our kid do.
Yes.
All right, so I found I found where it's at. I'm
Okay.
going to add it to the stream. I've slowed it down just at the first level that you can slow it down. And I'm going to put I'm dying to know what the closed captions are going to say
I
when
think
I
it
slow it
applauded
down.
and said something about. Shmita said it said applesauce.
I'm curious what it'll pick up.
Laughter and
Very-
applesauce.
It's very awkward that it says laughter and
I know it.
applause.
Yeah, that is weird.
And I think it's Deputy Thompson shows up and then. And just for the record, Judge, this is State's Exhibit number 2. Now, Todd, here I'm gonna play you the part where you're doing the chest compressions, and I'm just gonna ask that you listen in between the chest compressions, okay? Now, Todd, did you just hear that whisper at the end of that?
Yes,
And what did you whisper?
I couldn't hear it.
Okay, I'm gonna play it again.
I feel like I heard it better.
Mm-hmm.
Todd, do you whisper cheating whore right there?
No,
So you don't remember what you whispered?
no.
Okay, I'm gonna play another clip for you. Do you know what you whispered there?
No.
Did you hear that? So I'm gonna play that part one more time. The first clip is 6:53 of that second tape. And this second one is right at 0700. Just try to listen really closely. I just want to know if you remember what you said. Right there, do you say go to hell, cheating whore?
No,
So you don't hear that.
no.
You didn't hear at 6:53 cheating whore. You didn't hear that.
I didn't hear that word.
And it's right at that, after you hear a ping, you don't hear go to hell, cheating whore.
No.
I don't know because it sounds like it, but there's lots of times that things sound like they aren't. But
Right.
I wish somebody would have had say, "Hey Todd, say go to hell, cheating whore," right now.
Right. Exactly. And the state, they are allowed to clean up audio like that. They could have made an attempt to clean it up if, obviously they probably would have had to get a court order to do it or whatever, but I think it would have probably more than likely been allowed because there's so much over talk anyways. It was hard, they could have, I'm sure it would have been allowed, but they should have let it be that way. But
Yeah.
but I will say this. It's very, like Mo said, it's very easy to not know or to think people do it all the time with songs. They mess up the lyrics all
right.
the time. Do you know that when I was a kid, right, Michael Jackson was my absolute favorite. In fact, Michael Jackson's Thriller album is the very first album I ever bought with my own money as a kid. I was like 9 years old. Okay.
Was it like a record?
It was. No, it's a lie. It was a tape. It was a cassette tape.
A cassette tape.
Yes.
Nice.
I
Where
went
you
for
had to rewind it with the pencils.
right. Well, yeah. If it got messed up, yeah. But okay. So when I was younger, I used to
Didn't know you were
think
fancy.
Well, I mean, you could also rewind it inside the tape player. It has a
I
rewind
know, but
thing.
then it'd get all screwed up and you had to pull out the pencils and redo it.
Yes, then if it gets messed up. Okay. But a lot of people don't know what that line is that Michael Jackson is saying in what is the name of the song? What he's saying
Billie
is
Jean?
no. What he's saying in the I can't think of the songs on my tongue right now. Is you can say for me to stop, but I'm not going to stop. And everybody hears it like, Mama say, Mama sa, Mama kusa, but that's not what he's
Oh,
saying.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's you can
Mama say, Mama say, Mama
yeah.
kusa.
You can say I need to stop, but I'm not going to stop, or you can say to stop, but I'm not going to stop. That's what he's saying. Okay, so it's very possible that
I like Lupe's wrapped up like a douche.
yes,
Yeah, or Tiny Dancer as Tony Danza.
yes,
Also, I love Big Brother and I watch the live feeds. There was a big controversy over if these boys said a derogatory comment or not. I didn't hear it, but other people did. So, it's hard to tell. I mean, I heard it, but that's because she said it. If she hadn't said it, I don't know if I would have heard it.
all right, hold on.
You know what I'm
show you.
saying?
Yeah,
If she hadn't pointed it out,
it's wanna be starting something. That's the name of the
Want to
song.
be starting something. I want to be starting something.
You got
Okay,
to
so
be
my
starting something.
our poll is thinking he's more guilty. 60-40 now instead of the, what was it, 54-46 or whatever it was.
right. But, side jury, if she hadn't pointed out, would you have heard that? We will never know.
No, exactly.
I don't think anybody would because nobody heard it the first time the 911 call. Nobody in the chat said, "Did you hear what he just said?"
Okay, so let's just say he said it. We'll just say that he did say it. Go to hell, you cheating whore.
Right.
Does it change the evidence and put the corn rake in his hand?
No.
No.
No. At the end of the day, he's not wrong. Maybe a little too far, but
Well, maybe he says, don't
she
go to
was
hell, you
cheating.
whore.
And that's my point. He could have been pissed off that Tristan did this and knows Tristan did it because she was a cheating whore.
Look what you did, you cheating whore.
Right.
But
Yeah,
he knew he was being recorded, but I guess you don't think about that in the moment.
Probably not.
He probably thought he was like whispering and, I don't know.
But he does, after I listen back to the 911 call, he does sound very angry. To me. Not so much angry at her, but just angry that this has all happened. That's why I don't know about Tristan, man.
Well, I think that the only way that the defense could overcome that recording would be to have another person go through the rest of the recording, all those little whispers, and see what is said, and if it goes along the lines of everything else he's saying. Because there's a lot of stumbling around on the 911, like just ground.
He could have been calling the phone a stupid whore. Like, that's what I mean. If he's
Maybe
doing
he's
something
calling
and
the
the
fucking
phone's
911
like,
operator a stupid whore.
That's my other question.
like if it's slipping out from his shoulder, right? My
Or
husband
it-
would like fix it and be like, "Stupid whore, get back."
Or it could be it's on the floor. I need to
Remember-
do more. There's a ton of things that he could, that he could have been saying.
Remember when they played the original 911 call and we were like, what a weird place to play it. So did she play it to get it entered into evidence so she could do this later?
Yeah.
Or
Yes.
does the defense already know she's going to bring this point up?
No, they
Like-
don't. No, no, they have no idea that that's what she's going to do. If they had any idea that's what that she was going to do, they would have fought it.
Okay,
And they
that's
would
what
have.
that's what I was wondering.
But
They
they do argue. They do talk about that. I think. I don't know if it's maybe not when the jury's around, but I remember watching the defense saying something like, "We didn't have." Maybe it was a sentencing, Mo. Maybe you'll remember. But something about like we did not have an expert looking at that tape. We didn't have the clips that they were referring to, or something like that. Like they do argue it. I just don't. I think it's too late.
It is
Yeah.
too late because the truth of the matter is this: you only get one bite at the apple. Okay, so the tape was made available, and they could have had the tape analyzed.
Yeah.
But
But
they
I think that's
they probably had no reason to have it analyzed.
right.
So which was my point. That's what I was trying to get. That's what I was trying to explain is that they had no idea that that's what they were going. That's what she was about to do. Otherwise, they would have had it analyzed. Otherwise, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's why I think she entered it when she did. Because remember, we were like, why did she play it right then? So it'd already be in evidence. So then they couldn't. Because once something in evidence, you can't fight it, right?
Ask that again. What'd you say?
Once it's already in evidence, they can't go back and fight it.
No, they admit no because the time to object over evidence would have been at the at some of the pre-trial hearings or whenever.
She's asking in front of the court, like, I'd like to
Right.
admit this for, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
you can object then, but yeah.
All right. So what are we thinking?
Hold on.
I still don't think, I still have reasonable doubt because I still question the son. But I think
Yeah.
one of the two of them did it, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I'm only
like, did
saying
they
that
prove
now
that she
because
was
it's
murdered?
over.
Yes. Like, they proved that it was murder.
You think so?
But
I do not believe it was murder.
well, the defense hasn't offered up any other, maybe alternative.
Even the defense said it was murder.
Yeah, but Todd doesn't think it's murder. He thinks it's an accident.
I know, but then
Does he still think it was an
he
accident,
shouldn't
or
have let
that?
his attorney say that.
And you can tell when he's testifying, and I think it's on this one, that with like she's asking him stuff like, so you now think it's murder, or on November 16th when the cop was asking you and you're thinking like you don't respond, what were you thinking? And he's like, you can almost tell he's like, I don't believe him. Like I don't believe it.
Right. He
wants to say
he
that.
does think it's an accident. And
Or does
that's
he want to
another
push the
issue that comes
narrative
up.
that it's an accident so that it's not? He either pushes it that it's an accident or he pushes
Mhm.
it that maybe it was his son or someone
Well,
else.
In my opinion, he should, if he had a problem with his lawyer saying it was murder, he should have brought it up then, not until after.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he thinks it's an accident. I think he always thought it was an accident.
Yeah,
I don't think he ever thought it was murder.
I
Right.
agree with that. He does.
But I
stand
think for
by
defense
it.
purposes,
That's
they
an
had to concede that it was murder. Otherwise, it was going to be him covering it up by saying it was an accident. But I know I'll be the minority here, but I still believe it was an accident.
Well, the problem is there's the state based a murder charge on the emergency room doctor. When the emergency room doctor looked at Amy and he took into account all of her injuries, the chin, the hands, and the fact that there are 4 tines on a corn rake and she had 6 holes in her back. 7 if you count the chest tube. Okay. But that doesn't count. Anywho, he is the one that then said, this doesn't look quite right. It doesn't look exactly how it's being described. That's all he said. So then they take her to the medical examiner's office. The forensic pathologist performs the autopsy. She is the one that determined this to be homicide. And she didn't do it just based on the number of holes in Amy's back. She based it on the hand injuries. She based it on the chin injury. She based it on the knees injuries, right? So,
But she also didn't know that she was given blowies in the gravel.
And they
okay,
never
I don't care
testified
what
that they look at
kind
the actual
of
scene.
I don't care what kind of S&M you're into. You do not get that kind of a bruise from blowies in the driveway. Sorry, you just don't. Now, what did you say, Teresa? I missed it.
I said, but neither one of them ever testified to that. They look at the pictures or the photos of the scene to see what she could have hit, what else could have caused it.
I agree.
That's a
So
good
I'm
point.
not ruling out accident, but I
So
don't
there's a
think
question.
anybody else did it. I think it's either
Renee
Todd,
wants to know
Tristan,
why
or
how
accident.
she has so many wounds. I think this is my thought, and this is why I want height and the length of the corn rake and exactly where it was in there, because I think she was dizzy and she hits it, she like falls back against it, knocks it down. That's where her first two come from. It falls down and she passes out and impales herself on it, and that's where the four that go deep are. I think that she's not dead. She's trying to crawl to the door to get help and can't make it. She's too weak. And that's where they find her. But
But
there's
it could be the opposite way, though, if she was crawling out, no?
no, because her head's towards the opening to the door.
Yeah, he did say that. That's
Oh,
possible.
okay. I was thinking
So
the
you're
other way.
thinking,
Like,
Teresa, that she fell back so hard the second time that she impaled herself with the rake, right?
I do. Yes.
What kept her from falling back more? Why did she go from a backwards motion to a then forward motion?
But I don't think she did. I think she was probably back and forth. I think that's when she probably fell over. So I think that the rake was upright against the wall. And she hit, and with the forks out, she's dizzy, falls back against it, is able to continue moving, but passes out while the rake has fallen to the ground and she falls over and impales herself on it.
And then rolls over.
You know what, though? Do I think that's what happened? No. But is that possible? It is possible.
No, it's not.
It is.
Because no, it's not. Think about this. No, it's not. Think about this.
It's too small of a space.
Right. The problem is
that's
the
why
way
you
that
can't be swinging a corn rake.
Well,
how are you swinging a corn rake at somebody in that small of a space? And if you're that pissed, why aren't you hitting her so hard the first time that it actually goes through her? If you're that pissed, that's
because if you're 13 years old,
crimes of rage and crimes of passion are typically overkill because of that. So the first one is like, I might just hit her because I'm pissed that I saw her on her phone. No, you're gonna, like, if you know she's cheating and or if it's premeditated and you're planning on killing her, well, you're gonna go out there and you're like, I'm just gonna kind of hit her with this one a little bit and then I'll impale her.
Oh no, I don't think it was premeditated.
Well,
because he would have planned something better than that.
I think the heights are important. The reenactment is what gets me. And it's not that I don't think that there's a possibility that Tristan lied and that he's guilty. I think that there's no proof that says this swing was the downward motion from this height while she was at this height, or that she was on her knees when he hit her the second time. I want to know. There's nothing that says that to me. So why can't it be an accident? There's freak accidents all the time.
You're right. The problem is, in my opinion, based on this testimony and all the evidence that was submitted, there isn't enough of it, in my opinion, to say one way or the other, to say whether it was an accident or to say whether it was done on purpose. There are too many unknown factors in this situation. The biggest unknown factor is because Todd moved her for whatever reason, whether he did, let's say he did it and he moved her because he was pretty sure that if he drove to the hospital he could slow roll it just enough so she wouldn't be breathing, right? Or they couldn't bring her back. Or what ended up happening, right? She's barely breathing and they can't, well, that's just what I said. Okay. Because he did that, we don't know how she really was positioned. We have no idea exactly how her body was found,
Very true.
where everything was in relation to where her body was found. That is the problem with this whole situation. There are so many unknowns that I don't understand. Do I understand why the medical examiner could rule this? I think that more needed to be done before it was ruled a homicide. In my opinion, it should have been ruled undetermined until they could get out there to that scene and put it together a little bit better. That's just my opinion. That's just my opinion. I think that there's just so much that's not known.
I agree. But my point also is, wouldn't he be smart enough to say, I mean, he could pick any way that he found her. He could say she was on her side. I mean, why say she was...
What did he really, let's think about it though, Mo. What did he actually really say?
that she was face down crouching.
Okay. His crouching and my crouching might be two totally and completely different things. What I would consider a crouch and what you would consider a crouch might be different things. It's not enough information. I don't think that
Yeah, but if I was gonna say it was, make sure to say it was an accident, I would have made up a position that, I mean, if I'd killed her and said I'm gonna say this is an accident, I would have said she was laying some way that didn't look like she was laying there with her back exposed. Does that make sense?
No. It's not that you're not making sense. I'm not understanding what you mean. Why you would lie? You would make up a. How else would she? What do you mean? If you had to say that if you were trying to cover it up, how would you say she was laying?
Well, at least on her side or something.
Why though?
Because that would mean she hit it and tried to roll over. Not that she was laying on her knees and her chin, because that just makes it sound like, to the jury, that makes it sound like she was, her knees and her chin were on the ground. And her back is like hunched over straight up in the air. That sounds exactly like somebody stabbed her.
But if he had her laying any other way than the way she was laying, how would she have gotten that? She had to be laying with forward. You know what I'm saying? With her, because otherwise, how would you account for the chin injury? You know that they could see that chin injury. That bruise is hellacious. And I guarantee you, by the time Tristan walked in, that bruise was there. Regardless of whether it was an accident or it was on purpose, that bruise was there on her face.
And the bruise on her chin has abrasion in it, right? But no gravel.
No abrasion. No, no abrasion, just blunt force trauma.
Oh, I thought it had abrasion.
No.
Ugh.
And to answer BR the Star, I know you're being facetious when you ask this, but if in order for her to have obtained it that way, if you take into account that the last time that her and Jerry were together and the time between that day and the day and November 10th, the bruises wouldn't be that color anymore. There would be healing. She would almost, in order for the bruises to look like that, she would have to be constantly in that position. You know what I'm saying? Making a fresh bruise each time.
I also think that he could have laid her on top of Tristan because Tristan already had blood on him.
I mean, it's possible. But I think that people are thinking that there would be more blood than there is. Because
right, because he said he didn't see blood at first.
Right. You have to remember. I hate that phrase. Let me rephrase
3 layers,
that
though,
question.
of
That's what I
clothes.
was saying. She had several layers of clothing on. And the truth is that the injuries that she sustained, while there was damage obviously externally, the majority of the damage was done internally. But it isn't like what punctured or what the damage on the inside wasn't to a vein, a major, an artery or a major vein, right? So people think that when you stab somebody with anything, that there's just going to be all this blood everywhere. It's going to there's going to be all kinds of cast off and this, that, and the other. And I mean, sometimes there is and sometimes there isn't. It just depends on what weapon was used to begin with, and B, where the injuries were. Obviously, there will be blood, but she was wearing, like Allie pointed out, 3 layers of clothes, and it was like a leak, not a gush.
Yeah, I don't even think there was very much blood on the floor, was there?
Mm-mm.
I don't know. Well,
But
regardless, I would have reasonable doubt.
That's what I think. I think there's reasonable doubt in this case. I don't understand what other information the prosecution had that they didn't put on to make it a stronger case. Yeah.
But I don't think anybody else did it. Like Jerry or his wife or anybody else.
Mm.
I think that's just a stretch. I think it was just a spur of the moment killing, like it wasn't planned or anything.
Yeah, but the part that gets me about it being, well, never mind.
And I go back to, if Todd was going to kill her, he would have come up with a better way.
Does Todd
Unless
seem
he
like
walked in on her. I mean, if he walked in on her texting, but then how does that make sense? Because Tristan found her.
But the thing is that she had defensive wounds. I am wondering if the scuffle started in the red shed at all. Everybody, including the prosecution, is assuming that all of this took place in that red shed and only in that red shed.
Right. I guess they could have been fighting outside and he pushed her in there.
Right.
So Tristan wouldn't come out and see.
But the truth of the matter is that she had those injuries on her hands, if it was just one hand and it was her dominant hand, I was looking at my husband's hands the other day because he, the work that he does, he uses, he uses his hands all the time, and he's always coming home and they're all beat up. But you know which hand is beat up? The right hand, because that's the hand he uses. So I looked at both of them, and he had no injuries on his left hand, and he had 3 cuts over his knuckles on the right hand. So because everybody in that house did, Renee, everybody had access to that iPad.
It wasn't even at their house when they came to get it.
No, it wasn't, but Todd Todd conceded that there were searches that were done by him, and there were searches that they did together. So, you know what I'm saying?
Did you like how he admits to being the one that searched for the Facebooks and the Christie stuff? We were thinking like that's got to be a woman.
Yes.
Yeah, I know he did. I just kept my mouth shut. But that's important because you got to admit to some things so you don't look.
I think whenever he talks about like the Gmail accounts and setting all that up, like when he says like, I don't know, I have no idea, I believe him there.
Oh yeah, I do too.
Okay. So if
he said a button, he said, I don't know,
yeah,
some button.
Exactly. There's actually no buttons except for on the side, but okay. Especially on an iPad, there's like one.
And you got to search for it.
Yeah. But my point is that I don't know. I just feel like we don't have enough information really to say. All I can say at this point is I don't know what happened, but there's definitely reasonable doubt.
I just can't believe there was no reenactment by either side.
Well, okay, so does anybody in the chat feel like 100% they could go and listen to this and say this man is guilty? Like that's what they would vote if they were on the jury?
It's got to be according to the poll.
Oh, that's
what I want to make sure. Like they would say guilty. We probably shouldn't say innocent. We should probably say not guilty. But
Oh, let me make that more clear. My bad.
We should do another one too. How many can you add?
I think it's hard to believe that 12 people, none of them had a reasonable doubt. Which I don't know. I've never been on a jury because the vid stopped me from being on one. But I can also see me, because I'm so passive, not fighting my point as much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but here's the deal.
They'd be like, "Vic, sign this paper so we can go home." And you'd be
right,
like,
and I'd be like,
okay.
Because you know how like I'll disagree with Jen, and then she'll like get her like stern voice on and be like, "No, this is this," and I'll be like, "Okay," even though I still don't agree. I'll be like,
yeah. Where I'm over here like, but I don't know.
It would be hard for me to say this guy's guilty beyond all reasonable doubt. So that's why I wanted to know if there's people in chat that could do it.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be able to.
All polls matter.
I'm just an agreeer, though. But I don't see, I wouldn't be able to do it.
I don't know. If I were on a jury and my job was whatever my decision was going to impact somebody for the rest of their life, whether it was the rest of their life in prison or the rest of their life free, there isn't anything that anybody could make me do. If I believe that they were not guilty, that's the way that I would vote. And I wouldn't give a rat's that kneecap.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's hard to say because I've never been in the position, but yeah, like, I guess you're right. Because in this situation, I would be like, I have reasonable doubt.
And the thing is that even let's say that they were able to convince you, right? And they forced you, but not forced you, but you just caved and you didn't mean it. You still get a second chance because the judge pulls the jury.
Oh yeah, and then I would tell the truth.
Then you could tell the truth.
I would.
I know.
I'm like, no, they made me, and I felt bad, so I said yes.
Exactly. But I'm the person that's talking to you right now is the person that would be on the jury box and in the jury box. And there's absolutely nothing that anybody could ever say to me that would make, if I felt strong enough to vote not guilty, nothing that anybody pointed out to me is going to make me change my mind.
Right.
I would not cave.
Well, I know you wouldn't.
No, hell no, I wouldn't. The Jen Lou goes everywhere.
You
how
would
I
be
am.
The what's it called? Foreman.
I'd have to be elected to be a foreman, and I don't play well with others. So I would.
You would be elected.
I don't think they would. But I'm saying, like, there's no way anybody would convince me to agree to something that I didn't agree with. But that's just me. We were talking about those Google searches earlier. I've learned a lot, and I just feel like, again, there are too many people who had access to that iPad who could have done those searches. There are some of those searches that I'm like, wow, okay, that's what you're looking up. All right. But I don't put a whole lot of weight in the Google searches, to be quite honest with you, one way or another. I don't think that they convict him, and I don't think that they make him not guilty either.
They didn't prove that it was him.
And only him. Exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
That's the problem.
They've already established that Gmail account was made available to multiple people in multiple households. So there's nothing.
Yeah, the Google searches, I would fight in the jury room over that. Just because I know mine.
And I will say, AJ, I do agree with you that I don't believe Todd was over and fine with the fact that she cheated on him. Not once, but twice. I do not think that he was like no. He wasn't sing-songing and everything was happy. No. But the problem is, for me, just as a juror, the state didn't do a good enough job. I couldn't do it.
Now, I think they did a good job, but I don't think they did a good enough job beyond a reasonable doubt.
My issue with the Google searches is the wording used. So there's like ones that refer to husband, like he's referring to himself in the third person.
Right.
I have a problem with that. Like, I just don't what was the one on the DNA? Like, how to tell if
your child is your husband's, or how to get your husband's DNA without him knowing, or whatever.
Yeah, it was like the one that was like, how to know if the child is your husband's, or something like that. And then also like how do you do a genetic or DNA test without anybody knowing? I'm like, why would you need, like, there was just weird ones that were like that. There's also other weird ones that they, that obviously, like, Amy would know that those are her kids. So that search kind of makes sense too. But it's still, why would he refer to himself as the husband? So Google searches go out the window for me.
What if it was the brother across the street? What if the brother was looking that shit up? Who knows?
But it also makes me wonder if she had another affair and worried one of those kids weren't his.
Right, because the timing of that doesn't make any sense either.
Right.
Unless this DNC wasn't an ablation.
Let me say
Yeah, I
this.
thought about that too.
I did too,
too.
because I did too. But if it wasn't, the defense could have subpoenaed. I mean, okay.
Well, he refers to it
Because
as a DNC.
he does, because she had the procedure done relatively close to the time of her murder, right? The coroner likely would have gotten that report.
Yeah, I think so too.
And if the coroner got that report, then the defense got that report.
Yeah, but
And
what I'm wondering is if she thought she was pregnant and was looking it up. Like maybe she didn't know until she went to the doctor and found out what was really going on.
well, I mean, she was bleeding like a sieve.
Right.
Why would she think she was pregnant?
Maybe she was having a miscarriage.
Maybe she was. I mean, there's a lot of things that are possible. However, if that were okay, so I promise you that they ran tox screen and all of that, right? One of the things that they do is they also check for pregnancy. And
Why
even
wouldn't
if
they have said that in the trial?
exactly, and if she were going through a miscarriage, right, then just because you miscarry doesn't mean that your hormone level immediately returns to where it should be, right? Where it should be 0 for that specific hormone. So
HCG?
likely, the HCG. So she probably would have had a little bit still left. You know what I mean?
Well,
Maybe not. If she was miscarrying, that's why she was bleeding, and then it wasn't able to get it all out, and then she had the DNC on the 6th.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't die till the 10th. They don't do the autopsy till after that. We don't even know they did toxicology because nobody ever said anything about it. We assume they did because that's what they should do.
Right.
but I think she
HCG
would have
could
told
gone down.
Jerry. I think
don't
she would have
know.
told Jerry.
When were the searches? When were those searches about the DNA? That was in July or October. I can't remember which one.
Oh, yeah, that's right. When was it? That is important.
Yeah, because if this is all happening in November.
I don't remember.
I don't either.
Neither do I.
But yeah, I do think they were before this all happened. So that would be a moot point. Unless she thought she was pregnant back then.
Right. And we'll never know now.
No.
Right. Because we can't see any of the messages to Jerry.
And the truth is, what if Amy was on the phone with somebody? What if one of her girlfriends got caught up? What if she was Googling it for somebody else?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Dorothy!
Dorothy!
How you doing, babe? I mean, there's a million possibilities. And that question, I'm very, 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 now I have to know. And I'm not going to play it today because I'm getting tired. But now I'm ready for that hearing.
Oh, yeah, you have to see the sentencing hearing first, though.
Well, of course I will.
We're doing
Obviously.
jury. We're doing jury tomorrow. Jury verdict and sentencing tomorrow.
How long?
Well,
yeah.
Jen wants to hear the jury instructions, but we'll speed those up.
No, I don't. No. I don't care about you asked if I wanted them downloaded. And I said, yes, because you're going to put them on your channel and you should have, if you're going to download it, one thing, you should download all the things. You know what I mean? That was for you.
I think we should listen to jury instructions.
We can listen to them. We can listen to them if you guys want to.
Yeah.
But I do want to say that so that trial, Teresa, I told you is not going to be till the 24th of February, right?
Yeah.
And I've already been looking up some, like, in the meantime, where the defendant takes the stand or whatever. But then here comes Dr. B with the best case ever for us to look into.
Ooh.
And hold on, I'm going to tell you what it is because it's on the tip of my tongue. But
Ezra.
Yeah.
Ezra McCandles or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
a good
watched that
case.
whole trial too. Yeah, Dorothy, it's a crazy one.
Okay, so tomorrow we're doing jury sentencing and
How long, Mo? How long are all those, babe?
I have to
because the one
look.
I
I
have
don't
not watched at all is the
motion for a new trial.
yeah,
That's like an
that's it.
hour, I think.
Okay.
I put the verdict and sentencing onto one.
How long's that one?
Let me see.
We haven't even. We're not even. Just. Are we going to watch the closing
Oh yeah,
arguments? We
I
totally forgot about that
I
part.
did.
Oh yeah.
What
Okay, so we probably got another 2 days of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
definitely 2 days.
At least
Okay.
2 days, and that way Monday, right? We can start on Ezra and
Okay.
see what's going on with that. That should give us plenty of time
I put
between.
Ezra in
yeah.
the chat last night.
The closing arguments is
did
an
you?
hour and 48 minutes.
But that's for both sides, right?
Right.
Okay.
And
that's
then
not so bad. We'll
the
speed it up.
verdict and sentencing's an hour, and then the motion for a new trial is 27 minutes. So
Oh.
yeah, that's 2 days.
We should. Yeah. Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. That's
And
what
the
we'll
jury
do.
instructions is only like 20 minutes, but we'll speed that up so it won't be long.
And I looked over Ezra, and the way her trial plays out looks like we'll have just enough time to get through her, leaving out Thursdays for Escuela for Teresa, and be set for the next trial that I'm not going to announce until it's time. Can't wait.
I'm not sure they have everything for Ezra. I watched it, but it looks like they took some things out, so I'll have to research.
That's what
Okay,
you said
stuff's
in
missing.
this trial.
This trial did leave stuff out. I had to get stuff from 2 different places.
Well, yeah. The
Well, we could. We'll look and see if there's.
yeah. Whenever when you guys did the Debbie one or whatever, when I was late that night on football day, I had never seen that until I saw it on you guys.
Yeah, because a lot of the forensic pathologist was left out. Tristan was left out.
Yeah, but
Terry
they're
was
on-
left out.
Yeah, but they're
Okay,
only
I've
left
seen
out
one.
at they're only left out of certain places. There's another place to get them. It's
Yeah,
okay.
that's what I mean. We might have to record or download. We'll have to look around.
Yeah.
It's good
But
to
I
see
did
you,
find one that
Dorothy.
had more. So
We'll figure it out.
All right. All right. So same time tomorrow.
Yes, same time tomorrow. Dorothy, you came in just as we were ending, babe. So now
good to see you here, Dorothy.
It is so
I just
good to
love
see
you. Do you all know I love Dorothy?
I know that you do. I love Dorothy too. She knows I do, but I just don't like to be mushy. You know how I roll. All right, so we will definitely see you guys tomorrow at the same time, 9 Eastern, and all that business. And I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. I want to thank Teresa, Mo, and Shamita for going over this case with me. I appreciate it.
It's been fun.
I want to thank everybody for joining members and super chats. It's much appreciated. I'm always so grateful. I'm grateful for everybody being here to support me just by being here and talking true crime, because it's what I love to do.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll talk to you guys later.
All right. Bye, Teresa. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.